Welcome everybody to 7x Your Funnel free course, where we're going to go through pretty much everything you need to know to really scale your coaching business to 7 to 8 figures. Furthermore, 95% of all these lessons would apply to almost every high ticket offer. The real meat of this video is applicable to almost every other industry, but we've chosen coaches in this specific example to really showcase examples of how everything is implemented. So let's get straight into it. So what this course is going to cover is we're going to go from top of funnel to bottom of funnel, as well as actually case studies, as well as the back-end infrastructure you need to really succeed. So we're going to talk everything about social and offer setup, creative strategy, ad examples, ad structures, traffic sources, funnel strategy, infrastructure, and then some case studies, as well as in decision-making infrastructure, what to implement first based on where you are in your business right now. I had a big podcast with a CMO of a company doing over $1 billion a year, spread through the coaching sector, as well as e-commerce as well. And by far their biggest takeaway and what they focus most on is offer creation. So that's where we're going to start. Offer creation and offer testing by far will give you the biggest return on your time and completely change your business based on how well you can create a really good compelling offer. And I'm going to dive deep into what is an actual good offer and some actual practical steps of how to make a really good offer. So as I mentioned, 70% of your success is going to come down to your offer. You can sell the same exact thing and position it differently in the market and get a 10 to 50x return on growth by just positioning yourself in the right way to give you the ability to charge way more, collect more cash up front, and of course convert a lot better. So firstly, this is the most basic step of actually creating a really good offer, and that is niching down. So of course, if you're a coach, we all know that you're going to have to target a certain pain point and talk about a certain thing and teach a certain thing to a certain person. So by just niching down a course around, for example, even business to a specific persona is instantly going to increase how much you can actually charge, because you're actually speaking to a specific persona about what they need and specific problems around that specific individual. So if you create a business course, for example, around plumbers and how to scale a plumbing business versus just how to scale a business, you can suddenly charge way more because you're addressing specific pain points. And because you are niching down, you also, of course, make sure that you can create specific course material to that persona. So niching down is extremely important. And the next step, apart from niching down, that's really important is when you do create an offer, it has to be unique in the marketplace. And the way that you define if an offer is really unique is if it's a commodity or if there's anything else to compare it to. So if you can compare your offer to something that someone else is selling, then people can compare value and then of course price, and then you start competing on price. So if you have a unique positioning in the marketplace, you can charge whatever because you technically have a mini monopoly on what you're actually selling. So furthermore, after actually creating a really good offer and making sure that you are unique in the marketplace, we want to add a lot more components in the actual offer. And so this ranges from what you're selling, as well as how you sell it, and even your pricing and how you actually position your pricing. So the number one powerful thing to do in any business is, of course, increasing pricing. Pricing performance is massive. When you have more margin, you have more ability to actually fulfill, of course, and create a really good service. Secondly to that, you also have the margin to actually acquire customers. So if you're selling something for $5,000 versus $500, then you have $4,500 more, especially if you're selling something digital online. You want to have the margin to acquire a customer. So if you have something that is a high ticket offer, then of course it's very hard to not succeed because you have that much margin to actually work with in your funnel to actually generate a result. So let's say if you're selling something for 5K versus 500, you now have $5,000 in ad spend to break even versus $500. So let's just do some quick basic math on that. $5,000, you can get leads for around $30 a lead. So you can get 150 leads spending $5,000, where if you have $500, you can get 15 leads, and now you have to get a sale within those 15 leads. So the law of large numbers play in effect when you actually increase price, but we're going to dive a bit deeper down this rabbit hole of pricing and some other things you should sell with your offer. One super important thing is you need to sell multiple things. If you want to have a good coaching business, there's going to be different personas with different pain points and different amount of money to spend. So the 4 core things to really focus on is, one, having something for free. So as you see right now, we're presenting a free course. And the reason why you want something for free that is of a lot of value is the fact that you can get very, very cheap leads, and therefore a lot of people in your funnel for a lot cheaper. So the first thing you want to have, of course, is something free of a lot of value. The more value you can give in something that is free, the cheaper your leads is going to be, and the more likely people are to actually convert and then do business with you. So to give you another example, the reason why we want to put a lot of value into this course is we simply practice what we preach. We want to give away something amazing for free so that you can, 1, see that we want to provide a lot of value, 2, that we're very competent in what we do, and 3, this will make you feel a lot more at ease to actually book in, for example, a sales call with us, because you can actually see that we know what we're talking about and we can really help you in your business because you already did. So having something for free is extremely important. The second thing, of course, is what you guys are probably all focusing on, and that's your core offer. So that's the thing you're selling for $2,000 to $5,000, for example, where you want to get the majority of your customers to buy. Now, your core offer, I would say, really focus on trying to increase perceived value, increase the perceived price, and then, of course, at the back of that, have different ways people can pay. So just because you're charging a lot and people can't afford 5 or 10K up front doesn't mean you can't charge that. You can have a finance plan, you can have a plan where they pay a little bit up front and then pay as they get a result with whatever you have. There's a lot of ways to structure the actual payment side of the price, but make sure you do have something that is expensive, as we talk about margin and cash collected as being very important. Now, the third thing you want to have is you want to have a super high ticket upsell. And this does 2 things. 1, a super high ticket upsell, a very big thing, very expensive thing, massively increases the value of your core offer. So instantly, when people see that you're selling something for 50K, then suddenly something that you sell for 5K might be a lot more attractive, simply for the fact that you have something that expensive. Secondly to that, if you have something super expensive, there's always going to be a buyer that always wants the best and the top thing, and they want to choose the most expensive and best thing you have. And by just having that offer, now suddenly you can make 50 grand in one sale versus 5, just because you have that and you have actually in place something that expensive. Third reason why you want something super expensive is because you show a lot of confidence with that. If you have something for 50 grand, it means that you work with big clients, you work with big businesses, and you have a team that can fulfill and have experts around you that can actually fulfill on something worth 50 grand. The other thing with price that's so crazy is by simply charging more, people will instantly think it's more valuable. So oftentimes you can even get an increase in conversion rate by simply charging more. The other reason why charging more is so good is you're working with better quality people. If you work with someone that wants to only pay $500 or $500 a month or $1,000 over 3 months, you're working with someone that, 1, is price sensitive, and 2, probably doesn't have a lot of resources to fix whatever problem you're trying to help them solve. So it doesn't even help that they're paying you $500 because they are cash poor already. And you don't want to work with people that don't have the resources to actually work with you. You want to get results, and people with more capital tend to get more results because they're more competent and they actually have capital to solve a lot of their problems as well. So we really recommend always working with clients succeeding, working with businesses that's already doing well. And another thing is, a lot of times you can sell the same thing for 10x the price by simply selling it to a different person. So to give you an example of this, if you were to sell a website to a local business for $1,000, that local business can really just afford a website for $1,000. But let's say if you're selling that to a private equity firm, if they spend less than 100 grand on a website, but they're managing over $1 billion in assets, they're going to feel like they're not even getting a good enough website. So by simply changing your persona of who you sell to and making sure you sell to someone with money, you can instantly get a massive multiple of growth on your business. Now, the last thing to sell, and this is super important, and this has of course been a trend over the last 6 months to a year, especially if you follow a lot of things online, is a subscription model. And the reason why subscription is so good, one, it is a downsell to anyone that can't afford the core offer, which then if you provide a lot of value in $50 or $100 a month subscription, then of course later down the line they can do business with you. So this is a great downsell. And a lot of times if you have something free and you get very cheap leads and you downsell them on a subscription, you can almost break even on your ad spend, which means worst case, a lead buys something for $50 a month from you where that person can't maybe afford the 5 or 10K thing, but now you have downsold them. And the beauty of the subscription model and why this is so powerful is it builds community. And people right now with social media being so rampant feel more alone than ever. And selling a community and having like-minded people, especially students, for example, if you're a coach that wants to solve all the same problem in the same industry, a community is really valuable because it's also a networking place for people to actually talk to peers in the same marketplace that also have the same problems. And the beauty of the community is really that a lot of times what's so interesting about it is like your students can actually solve the problems of your other students and you still get the credit for that because you created that community. The other reason why community is so powerful and the subscription model is so powerful is the lifetime value aspect of this as well as exiting your coaching business. So if you have a few thousand people paying you $50 to $100 a month, you're now in a position to sell that business for a much bigger multiple versus just selling a core product that they pay a one-off fee for. So it's important to have all 4 of these things. And if you look at a lot of the top business models on earth, they always implement these 4 different pricing models. So for example, even a business like coffee, if you look at like one of the top coffee brands, Nespresso, they got a free thing, which is like going in the store and getting a free coffee. They got their core offer, which is a coffee machine. They got their high ticket product, which is the super expensive coffee machine. And then they have their subscription, which is shipping coffee to your door. So if you apply this logic to a lot of the top businesses, you can actually find that they have all 4 of these products. And if you're a coaching business already, and of course, we're trying to make a course for coaching businesses and coaches already succeeding, implementing some of these things into your actual coaching business can instantly increase your growth by a massive multiple. So make sure you do have all 4 of these things. And of course, iterate on all 4 of these things. Don't just implement it for the sake of implementing, but make sure your core product is very good. Your upsell is very good. Your subscription is very good. And your free thing is super, super valuable. So of course, messaging and branding always has a massive impact on price. So what I would say with messaging and branding is, of course, talk to your persona from a place of strength and power and competence where you actually know what you're talking about. Secondly to that, in messaging and branding, think about how you say something, not what you say. Oftentimes, by just changing how you present the certain information, the product, the course, your brand, can have a massive impact of the actual brand value. So for example, if you're selling a course to business people and you address them in a very classy manner versus like very informal, that can have a massive impact on the price and the perceived value of the thing, even though the thing and what you sell and the information is the same. So make sure how you present yourself online has a massive impact on your bottom line and of course your business. Another point I want to make is being the price leader. So firstly, we want to stay away from being a commodity. But more importantly, we want to be the price leader. So there's no benefit being the cheapest in the marketplace because, again, you don't want to compete on price. But if you can't fully niche down in a way where you're not a commodity and maybe there's 2 to 3 people in the same space, then be the price leader. By just having the most expensive offer instantly makes you the person that knows the most in the industry because he's clearly charging more, so you must know the most or have the best product or service. So make sure you're the price leader in your industry, and that'll also just give you a lot of street cred if people have to choose between 5 different options and the one person is selling something for 10x more, then they're going to really consider working with that person for 10x more, because why is he charging that much more? Or they might not work with the most expensive thing, but a cheaper thing with you just because you have the most expensive thing. Clear component of creating a really good offer, and the core tenet and value of this, and a lot of people already talk about this, but a good offer is something where people feel dumb for saying no. So if your offer is very good and what you're selling is so good and the value is so clear, then they should actually feel guilty or feel really bad for not wanting to buy this because they're making a mistake by not buying it. So you want to eliminate a lot of these things holding someone back, where buying something is actually a better decision for them than not buying. And making that value clear is like the tenet of creating a really, really good offer. Socials, funnels, and persona-driven messaging. One thing to keep in mind when you almost run any offer and almost any other business is people sell to people. Brands don't sell to people. So a lot of the core tenets of what makes a really good brand, what's going to stand the test of time, is making sure that you are the leader in your own brand. You are actually the person behind the brand selling it, and it's a brand with a face on it, which is you, and having that authentic part of yourself on your actual messaging and your business. Now, with AI, we don't know what's going to happen in the next 10 years, but one thing we know is going to stick around is always going to be personal branding. So personal branding is one of the best things to double down on, and always sell from your personal brand. I'm going to show you examples of how to do that. Selling from your personal brand is super important because you instantly increase trust. And secondly, when you build that audience on your personal brand, no matter what you do, you can always sell something new down the line. So if you have a good personal brand, you can always monetize it in the future. And by saying that, what makes a good personal brand is having fans, not followers. So a lot of people get really caught up in having a lot of views or followers, but if you create content that gets a lot of followers, but that content isn't of any value, that followers isn't of any value because they're not following you for really giving them value. So you see this a lot with some of these like big IG influencers that have 1 million followers, but they can't really monetize it because that followers are following them for the wrong thing. So a thought experiment I always had is if you can choose between having 100,000 followers of just random people or 100 followers of billionaires, which would you choose and which would make you more money? So keeping those extremes in mind, always create very valuable content that's going to be educational to the exact audience that you're trying to sell to. And there you can actually get, with a few thousand followers, a massive business because it's the right people that's following you that wants to do business with you. So just to go over everything again, we made a little graphic for you. Firstly, niche down, enhance your offer value, different offer types, strengthen your messaging, establish price leadership, and make sure you always focus on your personal brand. As even if you don't have your offer in place right now and you're still working on that, having the right personal brand, make sure that you're going to, one, stand the test of time, and two, monetize it in the future. So no matter what happens to your business, if you have a good personal brand, you can always rely on that to create a massive business for you in the future. Now, moving on, a lot of this was like very theory-based, but we're going to go super in-depth on the practical side of how to implement all these things. So we're going to start from the top, which is your Instagram. The majority of coaches right now, you're probably going to sell via Instagram. You can also probably sell B2B more via LinkedIn. But in this case, a lot of the coaches I believe that we work with is mostly in the B2C space, which means Instagram is going to be almost a pre-funnel to you and your audience. So as I mentioned, make sure you have a really good personal brand. So how do we practically implement that on Instagram? So firstly, Instagram is important. Of course, it's your pre-funnel. Secondly, it has your social proof. It establishes a lot of trust in the marketplace because if you have an Instagram that's been around for 5 years, you've been posting for 5 years, there's a lot of results dating back. It instantly creates a lot more credibility versus creating a profile that has been around for a month and a lot of these results are getting posted. So having an Instagram that stands the test of time, you've been around for a long time, and there's a lot of positivity and followers and comments and engagement standing the test of time, is going to make sure you have a lot of trust. Secondly, why Instagram is so good is you can really leverage your content in a very creative way to actually make sure that your Instagram becomes part of your funnel versus a place where you run ads from. So we're going to touch on a few things, everything from how to set up your bio, your save stories, etc. So bio setup, I'm going to show you an example just moving forward from this. Now, saved stories is super important, and stories on Instagram with Reels is probably the two key things to make sure you get really good growth. So firstly, with saved stories, the number one thing, of course, is testimonials and results of what you're selling, what you're doing. Second most important thing with saved stories is a lot of educational value and free value, so that one, you establish your competence in what you know, and two, if you have a lot of free value, you're going to get a lot of organic growth as well, and you're also going to get a lot of referrals, which means one follower is like, hey, check this guy out, he has a lot of free value, follow him as well. So that helps you out a lot. The third thing, of course, is breaking down what your offer is about and what you're selling, so that you can almost just sell off your Instagram. You should try and isolate all of these variables, where if you're just working with one of these things, this should help your business so much that you don't even need any of these other things. So when you all combine them, you get a massive return on ad spend and, of course, geometric growth in your business. The other thing that I believe is really important with your Instagram is actually showing a bit of like behind the scenes of your life and having that real connection with people. Just posting results, testimonials is all great, but as again, you're trying to have a personal brand. So you're trying to make sure you're very authentic on your Instagram. So post some things about you and your personal life as well. A lot of times when you're, of course, selling a B2C offer, you're trying to sell the vacation, you're trying to sell the dream outcome, and you have to establish the fact that you actually have the dream outcome you're selling. Otherwise, it's also very hard to sell that. So I'm a big proponent to really posting just what you're doing in your life, a bit of about you, some personality behind the scenes, what you're up to. And this is how you create real fans versus just viewers. So make sure you post that personal element to your Instagram. And the great thing about that is, of course, this is a super easy way to brand yourself because you're the only person that's you. So everything you're going to do is unique. Everything you're going to do is your own style and your own taste. And of course, you're going to have your own life that you can showcase, and people can relate to that. So I think the biggest trend in 2025 of personal branding is making sure you're as authentic as possible online. And this is one of the key things because, again, the biggest issue people have seeing anything online is going to be trust. So this is one thing you want to solve as fast as possible. This is why we have testimonials. This is why we have results. And this, of course, is why we showcase who we are as a person online. Now, all of the content I'm talking about, you can also post on your Reels. And Reels are super important because there's a hidden trick behind Reels I'm going to reveal later on of why you can get crazy growth and monetization with Reels. But in saying that, Reels is super important. The same content that you can have in your saved stories, you can have in Reels. I would have the objective to really make the Reels super engaging, but very educational as well. You don't want Reels out there that's not giving value to your audience. Or if you aren't really giving value, make sure you really go hard on the lifestyle and personal branding aspect of actually showcasing who you are as a person, as this is going to give people a lot more trust in you. Now, the other thing you want to do on your socials, just a very small tip as well, is of course having saved stories and content around pre-framing objections and handling common objections and misconceptions about you as your brand, especially if you're helping a lot of sales calls, if people are uneducated about what you're doing, or if there's something that you haven't addressed in your VSL, which we're going to talk about later. Making sure that you handle and pre-frame all of these objections and actually reframe them as a positive thing as well. I will talk a bit about how to do that. That's going to be very important for you moving forward in your funnel. We'll touch on some of these other socials later, but I believe in most cases, YouTube is going to be your second most important social funnel. And the reason for that is this is where you're going to really showcase long form content, really showcasing the competence and teaching people very valuable in-depth lessons around a certain subject that might pay for you later down the line. If you think about all of the top coaches you've ever bought from, you've always gone through a few mini lessons, a few mini courses, some long form content on YouTube, as this is a place where you can, of course, have an hour-long video, 2-hour-long video, going in depth about a certain subject. So YouTube is super important, and we're going to show how all of these things link together. But just moving on what else we can do on Instagram. So the other great part of Instagram is the collaboration between other accounts and yourself. So there's a lot of different ways you can do this. You can pay different accounts and brands to, of course, repost you, tag you, reshare to your profile and get followers that way or traffic that way. You can also, of course, tag other industry experts and showcase that you're with other industry experts, which also gives you credibility. So making sure you really optimize your Instagram around the collaborative features of tagging people, doing shout outs and posts from other accounts. There's a lot of different ways you can really optimize your Instagram with collaboration, but keep in mind collaboration is super important. Don't be isolated in the fact that you never have anyone else on your Instagram or never feature anyone else. And of course, there's also a lot of trust being built when you're around other industry experts and showcasing yourself as an industry expert. Now, moving on to Google My Business, we're going to touch straight on like actual examples of how to set this up. And after that, we're going to actually show you how to set up your Instagram as well. So Google My Business is a third component that is extremely important. And the reason why this is so important is one, for the reviews. So Google, of course, is extremely hard to fake reviews. It's extremely hard to remove bad reviews of your business. So making sure you have a good Google My Business profile where if people search you up, they can read real testimonials and reviews of your business will help a lot. The secondary effect of why Google My Business is so important is it's the easiest way to actually get SEO for your business. So a lot of these other SEO strategies, you need 6 months of content posting, backlinks, hiring an agency, spending 6 to 20 grand on SEO. But Google My Business, anyone can set it up really fast, takes half an hour. And when somebody Googles your business, the Google My Business section always pops up on the top right of Google, which means you get that SEO effect by actually not putting in the work of doing all of this SEO backlinks and stuff on your actual website and landing page. So this is a really quick hack to get the most bang for your buck in terms of SEO. And then of course the Google reviews are super important, and we want to integrate those reviews also into our landing pages. So actually embedding the Google reviews on our landing page. But Google My Business is super important to just establish that trust factor, because of course people are inherently distrusting of a lot of things online, and you really can't fake Google reviews. So this is why Google My Business is so important for your business. Now, of course, we got some examples here. Everybody loves Ramosi. Shout out to him. And as you can see, he set up a super basic version of that. But another example is one of our clients, Morgan, and he set up a really good Google My Business page, as well as, of course, having a bit of articles. And a lot of these press articles, just as a side note, you can get for like $500. So for $500, you should be able to get a ton of articles written about you. And if you haven't done that, that's like a really quick hack to just get SEO, because if you just search your name, you got 10 articles popping up about you, then of course that is a very, very easy way to get some SEO or some more search results and some social proof of you. So a lot of these as featured in Yahoo Finance and stuff, that's all like a $500 PR package. So for those who don't know, but if you do know, it's literally $500 and you can get 200 articles written about you. And it's not really a flex having all these articles, but for some reason, of course, it creates massive social proof for people who don't know about this thing that you can actually get for that cheap. Of course, someone like Morgan is very well known, and then he gets like real articles written about him, stuff like featured in Forbes, which is of course real, and like showcasing the results later down the line. But as just a side note, as a quick hack, you can get 60% of that result by doing a bit of a PR press release for yourself as well. So that's also just a high return on investment, something to do really quickly. And you can just find someone on Upwork or Fiverr to do that for you. Now moving on, just another example, one of our clients, Swish, shout out to Ryan. He is probably the biggest sales coach in Australia. Shout out to Ryan, he's the biggest sales coach in Australia. One of our clients, we shoot a lot of his media content and his event content. And again, Google My Business, making sure that you have that presence on Google so that when somebody Googles you, you're gonna pop up there. So moving on, setting up your social profiles. So the first practical example of what we're actually going to show you how to do it and some examples is Facebook. So setting up any social profile, there's pretty much 4 things you want to do with setting up a profile. So firstly, you want to convey who you are, what you do, who you're selling to, as well as having a call to action. Now there's a couple of nuanced things to do here, but I'm going to show you some examples of actually how to execute this. So showing you some good examples. So for example here on Alex Ramosi, pretty much what he does and a call to action. Normally that call to action that I prefer probably would be a free thing. So as I said, the free thing you're selling, which is like a lead gen magnet, that would probably be what I would put in as a call to action because, hey, this is my profile, here's some free value, and in exchange, you capture the information, of course. So good examples, Alex Ramosi doing it, our client Morgan Nelson, a bit less call to actions in there, but of course he sells a lot more on Instagram versus selling on Facebook. And then of course another example, which is literally just showcasing what they do, which is helping business owners and entrepreneurs scale. Another reason why Facebook pages is very important, and this comes back to the Google side of things as well, is on your Facebook page, which makes it a bit different versus Instagram, is one, you can have reviews on there, which of course is a second touch point where people are going to see the reviews. And secondly, normally when you get clients and audiences on Facebook, it's going to be the older generation. I'd also make sure to set that up more for the older generation. So stuff like even the graphics and designs you use, make sure you use bigger words, bigger fonts to make sure you do capture that older generation. Now, of course, the other component why Facebook is really good is for stories. So any story you post on Instagram, you want to make sure your Instagram, of course, is linked to your Facebook business page. And so if you have something on Instagram you post, you can reshare that to your Facebook page, which means you just get double the engagement. Facebook, of course, has the feeds feature, same as Reels. And so, of course, those Reels you're posting on Instagram, you want to cross-share that to Facebook as well. And, of course, that is just free views for not any more effort. And, of course, you're hitting that Facebook audience with your content and engagement. Exactly how I explained what type of content you want on Instagram, you also want that on Facebook. Now, of course, there isn't the save story feature. So that is something that is a bit different versus Instagram. But the majority of the use case for Facebook is going to be when people see your ads on Facebook, they're going to tap on your profile and they're going to check you out before they take action. So that is pretty much the majority of the use case when you're actually driving ads and traffic. So just keep that in mind. Now, Ethan will speak a little bit more about that on the specific content section where we talk about ads and creatives, but this is just for the setup and some ideas around setup. Now, moving on, this is going in depth into Instagram, of course, the most important part. Now, what you want to do here is, again, describing who you are, what do you do, what you're selling, and who you're selling to. So here's a good example of one of our clients, instantly coach in e-commerce and digital marketing, who he sells to. He's got a bunch of social proofs, 1,000 students, 200 plus clients, 8 figures generated online, and then a call to action. Again, make sure you always have a call to action, ideally to something free or the main way that they can enter and actually do business with you. There's 2 different ways of doing this. One is like a link tree or a multiple link where they can get some free value as well as, let's say, book in a call or check out your VSL. The other option is simply just one free thing and making the decision for them, which is like the only thing you can get from me is something for free, and getting the information by clicking on the free thing. Here's another example. Again, talking about who you are, what it's about, and then of course, a call to action. Now moving on, highlights. Again, as I said in the stories, what exactly you need. This is just showcasing exactly what we were talking about. Again, results, some lifestyles, testimonials, some media lessons, and of course, making sure you have that brand aspect of some saved story posts. So making sure you have like really cool designed thumbnails to make sure it's all on brand. And another thing to keep in mind with these saved stories is make sure it's always in the order that is most important. So an order that works really well for me is 1, showcasing results and testimonials, 2, what you're selling and what it's about, and then 3, saved stories around lifestyle and media lessons and free value. So when I actually tap on these saved stories, there's a very set order, and kind of think of that even as a sales funnel, and really go granular in like the saved stories they see first. And if they scroll through, they get directed to a specific thing, which is normally a free offer. A good example of this is a lot of coaches do events, and they have a certain saved section for events as well, which is also something you're selling. And if you're driving people to, let's say, that event, which is like the free thing, you'll have a certain saved section for events. So in this case, Morgan has Dreamfest, and of course, Ryan has his bootcamp. Now moving on, some takeaways and exactly some examples of feeds and reels. So of course, a lot of these reels come down to providing one, free value, some case studies. So a lot of these reels come down to free value, case studies and client testimonials, as well as a bit of lifestyle. So again, good examples is Hormozy doing a lot of value, pushing 50 to 100 pieces of content a day for our clients, Ali, with a lot of free value as well as integrating lifestyle. Ryan, a lot of sales knowledge and free value around sales. Our other client, Sasha, also a lot of free value. And of course, there's a lot of different ways to present this. So you can see some clients just doing super cinematic style with mostly podcast-based content, and other clients also doing just more informal content where most of it is filmed on like an iPhone. And I think the main key takeaway is actually making sure that 1, it's valuable, and 2, that however you film, it's not a constraint. So if you can afford, of course, spending a lot on a team to make a lot of content and have a team follow you around, that's great. But if not, don't let that stop you, and actually make content and have a massive output, and focus on the output versus trying to make the highest production value content. End of the day, people on social media to see social media content, and so having something also overproduced is not always the best option. So make sure you test everything. And then of course, the feedback with all of this content is going to be the organic views you're getting. And that will also be a takeaway of what type of content is working for you, and of course, what to double down on moving forward. But don't be intimidated by having a massive overproduction setup. Of course, that can help increase your brand equity and value, but rather have the content than not have content at all. Now, the YouTube channel setup, very, very similar to, of course, what we discussed on Instagram and Facebook. Again, YouTube, the biggest thing there is going to be your long form content, your long form lessons. This, you should kind of treat almost like a middle of funnel for your social media, where they're going to get real value, long form value. They can actually see what you're providing, a lot more of your personality. And most of the YouTube content you're going to film that is long form is going to be 1, of value, and 2, mostly just sitting down. You can either have a setup like this where you got 2, 3 cameras filming you, or simply do it super cheap and inexpensive with like a Loom video just recording screen, which is half the way of how we actually filming this video. So don't care too much about production value again, more about getting the content out, the value that's in the content, the value that's in these presentations, and of course, directing them to a certain call to action. Now, there's of course YouTube Shorts. Now, YouTube Shorts is very interesting. It's a very pivotal moment right now, because not a lot of YouTube short markets that are actually running ads. So when you're scrolling YouTube shorts, you're not seeing ads, which means it's all just organic reach. So you can get a mass organic reach from YouTube shorts, and a simple trick is just cross-posting what you did on Reels and the Facebook side of things as well. All those short form clips you repost on YouTube. Normally recommend 2 to 3 of these clips a day for optimal growth. And that'll also provide you with mass growth on your channel and getting you subscribers in fast for YouTube. Also, another thing with YouTube that we're going to discuss in the content section is how to make content very effectively and efficiently. And one of the biggest ways to do that is literally what you might be seeing on socials as well, which is taking a long form video like this and cutting it into short clips, which you then post, which means it's not a lot more extra work to get a lot of content out. So don't be afraid of clipping up your long form content. So a great part about YouTube is the long form content. So make sure you do have that on your page and make sure you give a lot of value there. One key takeaway with YouTube that is not as important on a lot of these other platforms is of course the thumbnail. So if you want to focus on getting some organic growth, I wouldn't really optimize YouTube in terms of like scaling a business with just organic growth. This is a very long-term strategy, and yes, it's exponential. You can get a lot of money from building a YouTube channel long-term. But in the short term, if you just want to get a bit of organic growth, make sure you always have very, very engaging thumbnails, as that's like a third of your views you're going to get on YouTube is just having a good thumbnail and headline. But apart from that, see YouTube as one, your middle of funnel, and two, secondly to that, YouTube can be a great source of traffic long-term. But again, it requires a lot of investment and time to get it to that stage. So in the meantime, we're going to show you some strategies to get growth fast using a controllable method, which of course is paid ads.
Now onto creating content. The one thing that we've learned when working with entrepreneurs, coaches, online business owners throughout the whole 7 to 8 years is we need to be a lot more structured. So one of our big clients, Sasha, he actually gets one of his internal copywriters to write out all of his ad content, social media, organic content, everything that he actually wants to shoot with a company like ourselves when we're on a production or like a studio. So I've actually created a sheet in here, and this sheet just basically makes it really easy for you to actually go on and get a copywriter from somewhere like Upwork or somewhere like Fiverr. I would actually recommend somewhere like Upwork. So if you don't have a copywriter, one thing that I would definitely recommend is hiring someone off Upwork. Now, obviously, if you're the CEO or the founder, you don't want to be writing all your social media content, all your ad content and everything yourself, because you want to be focused on actually growing your business. So I would hire someone just on Fiverr, Upwork, something like that. As you can see here, we've just gone in, a copywriter or social media, a content writer or something like that. Obviously vet them out first. I would definitely look out for the 100% or anywhere upwards of 90% success rate. From that, I've actually created a sheet, as I mentioned before, Sasha, that writes out all of his content with his internal copywriter. A lot of our other clients do that as well. Now, to make this easier, I've created a sheet where you can actually write in the reels. So say, for example, you want to create a reel all about how to get 3 more clients this month with this one strategy, for example. You can actually write the organic copy in there. You can write the headline of the reel in there, and then whenever the copywriter sends it back to you for approval, they would just press this to be for approval. Now, any things that you want to actually change on your side, you can just write in the notes section, and then once that's all approved by yourself, then you can just press the approve button. So that's one thing, one sheet that we actually use with a lot of our clients, and it just makes it simple. Sometimes we have clients that wanting to, use teleprompters or just want to be a little bit more structured. But then we also have clients that just like to run it off the cuff, similar to Vian here. I feel like he's better at that than me. I would definitely recommend something like this, just to be a lot more structured with your copywriter, your team, and basically anyone that's actually going to be shooting and speaking the organic content. Now, when working with an assistant or a copywriter that you're hiring from Upwork, or maybe you've hired one internally, you want to make sure they actually understand your business model, the messaging, and some of the people that you actually want to model off your content, because you don't want someone to write you a piece of organic content and it's just not what you're looking for whatsoever. It's going to frustrate you, and then you're going to have to spend more time to actually write it all yourself. So one thing I would do is create a Loom video, the exact platform we're actually utilizing to record this whole screen. I'll create a Loom video just simply going through your goals of the content, like what's the objective of this social media content that you're creating, the messaging, maybe some styles of copy that you've liked, that you've done in the past, just so they know that information from the get-go. And then as you do more like writing and shoots and stuff like that, they understand moving forward. So that's one thing I would definitely recommend. Step 3, structure the content easy for filming. So alongside what I mentioned before, this is mainly for ad content. So the other sheet, as you can see here, is mainly for social media content. So anything you see on like your social media feeds, on like YouTube Shorts, Instagram Reels, Facebook videos as well. But this one is simply just for ads. So one thing I would definitely recommend is writing in your hooks. So any hooks that you want to make for ads, you can do like pre-hooks, you can write like actual hooks, just chuck them in there. I would always recommend doing multiple hooks. Don't just do like 1, 2, or 3. Definitely do upwards of like 5 each couple of ads that you shoot. Now for the actual ad body, what are you writing and what do you actually want to achieve from that ad, like the middle part of the hook? I suppose you can call it the meat. Write all the ads in there, and then the CTAs, the call to actions, write them all in there as well. Now this makes it really easy on set if you're working with like a media company like ourselves, or a videographer or something like that. You want to make it as simple as possible, and especially if you're going to hire out a studio, you're going to pay for the company to be there, you don't want to waste anyone's time and anyone's money. So one thing I would recommend that we utilize for a lot of our clients is something called a teleprompter. So that's this thing right here. You simply just load the scripts that your copywriter or yourself has actually written, put it in the teleprompter, and it simply goes over the top of the camera lens. So it looks like you're speaking to the camera, but you're actually reading off the teleprompter as you're looking to the lens. So it's really, it's worthwhile investing in that, or hiring it from like a camera place or something like that, just so you can read the script as you go and you don't mess up along the way. Now, as I mentioned, with a lot of the clients that we do social days for, ad content for, or anything basically for their social media ads, we usually book out a studio or book out just somewhere to shoot. Now, this could be an office, this could be a studio, this could be a warehouse, there could be so many different things, an event center, but we want to just make sure you have a secure room or somewhere to shoot for X period of hours. So say, for example, if you're hiring a media company, getting the teleprompter, you've got all of these scripts. It sounds pretty self-explanatory, but the amount of people that we work with that don't do this is pretty interesting. So I would just definitely recommend getting somewhere for 4 to 5 to 6 hours to just dedicate to just shooting. Instead of shooting somewhere for an hour, shooting somewhere the next day for 2 hours, you want to just block it out in week blocks. And what I mean by that is, if you schedule 1 shoot day per week, that's great. Say, for example, for one of our clients, we do 1 shoot day every Wednesday or every fortnight on a Wednesday. That's probably the best way to maximize the amount of output you're getting with content, because you can just spend a whole day there just shooting. And then your editors can focus just on editing that content from that, say, for example, Wednesday that you shot there. Now, number 10, 100x your content output with the modular content system. Now, this is something that we're experimenting a little bit now with ourselves and some of our clients. You basically just mix and match a bunch of the hooks, the ad body, which is the meat of the ad, and the CTAs. So say, for example, up here, as I mentioned before, you would have written out all of the hooks, all of the ad body, and all of the CTAs. Now, if you're writing like 10, 20, 30 hooks, 10, 15 different ad bodies, and 10, 20, 30 CTAs, you can literally just mix and match all of those together in saying it's for the same offer, right? Like, you don't want to write all of these and have them for different offers and then mix and match them. They're just not going to make sense whatsoever. So make sure you're doing it all for one offer, You're doing heaps of different hooks, you're doing heaps of different bodies, you're doing heaps of different CTAs, and then your editor can just mix and match them from there. I would even recommend doing some pre-hooks, which is a small hook that you can actually add on to the other hooks. So you have more variables to play with when it comes to actually running your ads.
So to give you guys a practical example of why this is so powerful, if you're writing 5 ads out, start to finish, you have 1 hook, 1 body copy, and 1 CTA for every ad, so there's 5 ads. But if you write it out in the format that we said, which is separate the hooks, the body, and the CTAs, now you've got 5 hooks you can match with 5 bodies and 5 CTAs, so 5 times 5 times 5. So suddenly you've got a crap ton of suddenly you've got heaps of different variable creatives that might have slight variations in them. And because you're mass testing like this, the probability of then getting a top 1% performer out of 100 creatives versus, let's say, 10 is much higher. So the math is just behind you in terms of like what the audience wants, because you're just testing a lot more. And at the end of the day, who experiments and tests the most will always win. And the biggest constraint with all clients, e-commerce, as well as coaches, as well as any B2B or B2C offers in the ad space, is always a constraint on creative and creative output. And this is a way that is extremely powerful to get a lot of creatives, especially if we work with brands that are spending $10,000, $15,000 a day on ad spend. Creatives get tapped out really fast, but by mixing and matching this, you're not only giving Meta and almost tricking Meta into giving it a lot more creatives, but you're actually getting a lot more feedback from the marketplace of what works to double down on your next shoot. So creative output is always a constraint in almost every online business. And this, even though it's such a basic thing, can have a massive impact to your business. And this is a way where you can very sustainably and very cheaply do mass content output and come from a place of doing some scientific testing versus just doing 3 to 5 ads per offer. So this is extremely important, and this is the easiest and cheapest way to achieve a lot of content really, really fast.
And secondly to that, onto the editing and some tips and tricks for actually editing that type of content. Now, in saying that, I'm not going to go fully in depth regarding to the editing section, as you know, if you're a founder, CEO, or you're running your own coaching business or you're an online business, you're not going to be doing the editing yourself. Maybe you do some like a smaller edits on social media and stuff like that, but you're going to be wanting to find a good media company or a good like a video editor to actually do this for you, as I mentioned before, so you can actually focus on growing the business. But I'll run through a couple small things right now. So the biggest thing that we've found as a media and marketing company over the few years is if you're shooting a bunch of ads and a bunch of organic content and a bunch of just like content, VSLs, whatever it is, you want to make sure you're organized for the editor, or if you're editing it yourself, for you to edit. So I would organize it in just simple folders, one, the VSLs, 2, the actual ad content, the hooks, the CTAs, etc., and then the organic content, just so you don't get confused when there's hundreds of pieces of content in the timeline, so you can just execute very, very fast. Going back onto the modular system, yes, you can create heaps of different pre-hooks, heaps of different hooks, but it also comes down to the editing. Like you could have all the content there, have all the different hooks, but you can also create different edits for each ad. So say, for example, as you can see on the screen right now, there's this one ad that's exactly the same as the second one, but there's just a couple different effects. There's just a couple different like movements. There's a couple different like, maybe it's a different color grade. There's a couple of different things that differentiate these two videos that have different variables on why one may succeed and why one maybe not succeed.
And a pro tip on this as well is one of the key things, especially for social media, to test and split test is, of course, apart from the hook, is the type of captions you use and how engaging these captions and the graphics around the captions are. So this is something to do really cheaply and really fast to really change the style of what type of captions work. And of course, split testing that with stuff that's more on brand versus stuff that reads easier and is more attention grabbing. So it comes down to also the creative direction of your company. but don't be afraid to definitely test and split test this as well, as this can have a massive impact on your organic growth.
The one thing to keep just consistent as well when it comes to text, captions and stuff like that, like it might seem a little bit too small, but for the branding sides of things, make sure whoever you're using for your editing, the marketing, the media company, marketing company, whoever's doing your content, just send them like a color palette. Like just make sure they're using the same colors for the same content, for the same captions, etc. You don't want to work with someone like offshore and then work with like a local media company and their styles are completely different. Make sure it just matches your whole branding and everything that you're currently posting, so there's not like a massive drastic difference in the content you're posting. And lastly to that is the approval sheet that we've created and attached in this course as well. You can simply just use it for a different thing. Like you can add your edited reels in here, and then if it's not approved, you can just mention that in the status section and then write the notes that you want to change. Say for example, like you can use it as an editing back and forth with a company. You can make sure the media company or the editor chucks in your reels into this section right here and then sends it to you for approval. You can watch it, and if it's not approved, then you'll just say revision needed, which is this one right here. Write the notes of the exact things that you want as a revision. When they send it back to you, add the new video in here. Then if everything's perfect, you can just press approved, like this one right here. It's just a good way so you don't post things that you thought were amended. So say for example, like an editor sent you an edit, you wanted some changes done, but you didn't see it come back, or maybe you're just too busy or something like that. You send it to your social media manager, they post it. Like we've seen this happen in the past couple of years that we've worked with some clients. So just to make sure everything's organized and you're knowing, so you know what's approved and what's not approved, is just an easy way to put your mind at ease and let someone else do it than you micromanaging someone posting and someone actually creating and editing the content all for you. So in the next few sections, I'm actually going to be breaking down what's working in the online / like coaching industry for content, like organic content, ad content, some ads that are making people a lot of money, and some organic content that's getting a lot of views and a lot of traction online right now. I'm going to be breaking down everything from the actual creative, the content, and then the written as well, and provide links and all of that in the next few sections.
So I wanted to create a scientific system to actually approach marketing. And I've really honed the system down over the years. And this is a really practical way to not only create really good offers, also write really good ad copy, and then of course extrapolate that into your actual funnels and change your funnels and the messaging around the system. So a completely scientific approach that we've developed, and it's so basic, it's so simple. Once you guys understand this, you're going to really get mind blown of what you can achieve with the system. And the beauty of the system is it creates a lot of unconscious competence in your ability to create really good offers. And as mentioned in the start of this course, the skill set that is the least talked about and probably the most valued in the marketing space to really succeed is creating compelling and really good offers. So I built this whole system, and I'm going to do a full breakdown of how to use it. And this is something you should invest 4 to 8 hours and actually really put in the investment and time into this, because you're going to learn so much about your business by doing the system. And not only that, but you're going to have something to teach other potential clients as well. So there's a link in here, and you can simply click on that, and I'm just going to show you how the system works. So this system starts with pretty much writing out the ideal personas of who you're going to sell to. So in the baby niche, of course, there's going to be a couple of different personas. So what you want to do is you want to write out all of the ideal personas that is someone that you can sell to. In this case, of course, the pregnant mom would be the first persona. For each of these personas, they're going to have multiple values and hobbies and interests that align with them. And that's what we're going to start off with. So after you have one of the personas you can sell to, could be normally around 2 to 4 personas per business you have. In the baby niche, you can have like the pregnant mom, someone that just had a newborn, or someone that has, let's say, 3 kids already, or even an edge case thing like grandparents that have newborn grandkids. So that could also be a persona of someone that buys from you. The idea is you want to categorize who buys from you, and you start off with a persona. So in this case, we can start off with a pregnant mom. And for each of these personas, they have a lot of values, hobbies, and interests that align with them. And you kind of want to make a list on all of these. And the more in-depth you go, the better the system is going to be. So if you think around the values and hobbies and interests of a pregnant mom, one of the things that they would really want to do right now is educate themselves around how to be a good mother for their newborn baby that's coming up. And that is like a value and a hobby as well as an interest. And that's just combined as three things, but I broke them down a little bit more. So she wants to be a good mom. Another thing that could be a good hobby or hobby for a pregnant mom is she's going to like social events to meet other moms. She's going to these events where it's like teaching you how to become a good mother and some tips and tricks for your first baby. Another value or persona or interest could be her and her husband going baby shopping and looking at baby products, her shopping online and doing research for baby products. These are all values, hobbies, and interests around that specific persona. And the best thing is you want to write out as many as you can, and you'll see why this becomes so powerful. So for each of these values and hobbies and interests that we wrote down, we're going to write out all of the pain points and all of the ideal outcomes for exactly that value, hobby, or interest. So in this case, for example, educating yourself on how to become a good mom for a newborn baby, of course. What are some pain points around that? So firstly, she's overloaded by too much information and advice. She can be very time poor to get the right information, and she's afraid to make a wrong decision that can affect the baby in a bad way by consuming the wrong information. Now, what are some ideal outcomes around this specific value? Having absolute clarity on exactly how to care for a baby. Respect and admiration from her peers and family for being a good mom. Knowing exactly what she needs to buy and get for her baby. This list can, of course, continue on. I just want to keep this brief to really show the example. But ideally, you want to write out a few pain points and ideal outcomes for each of these. And from there, what we're going to do is we're going to write out specific headlines and offer concepts to address these pain points. And the idea behind this is, one, we can understand a lot more about exactly what this person wants to buy, how to solve problems. And two, we can integrate a lot of these headlines and offer concepts into our own business in everything from what we're selling, how we're selling it, ad copy, headlines, everything like that. So what's really great is once you have a matrix of all of this, you have a really good scientific approach on how to not only structure a better offer and create really good offers, how to also write ad copy with this system, as well as, of course, how to create the messaging on your landing page. So in this case, what we're going to do is we're going to write out solutions to some of the pain points. Pain point: overloaded by too much information and advice. Here's some headline examples. Feeling overwhelmed by too much contradicting information as a soon-to-be mom. So that's a great headline that we can then turn into an ad. And of course, if you have a product for a pregnant mom, in this case, what we do have, how does that product relate to solving this issue? Or, hey, why don't we create a free guide, which is now the free thing we were talking about, which is the only guide you would need as a soon-to-be mom. Now, of course, because this persona is who we're selling to, we know this guide is going to be valuable for them, so we know we are attracting our ideal client, even though this guide might not be in relation to the same product we're selling. It is still specifically made for the exact persona, which is our ideal customer. So this is how quickly we can now create a product just based on one pain point by just following the system. And if you were to just come up this without the system, it's going to take like a lot of creativity to really think about how you can come up with this concept. But by just drilling down and having a scientific approach, this becomes so clear on how you can actually create really good messaging. So there's a few offers that we wrote just for this one pain point. Now, of course, we can extrapolate that into ad copy. So what I'm doing here with ad copy and why this is so powerful is I first write out ad copy, just addressing, of course, this one headline and this one pain point. So now I'm writing specific ad copy for one of our clients in the US. So this ad copy is just related to this headline, which is around this offer and this pain point. But what's really good is you can integrate a couple of these pain points, a couple of these ideal outcomes to write one piece of ad copy that touches on multiple pain points and multiple ideal outcomes, where you can create something truly powerful, and you're going to write the type of ad copy that is in the top 1% of really converting. And we also built a full ChatGPT prompt system that I'm going to cover on later down the line. I'm going to show you how to integrate both of these things together to create the most powerful offers and concepts you've ever seen. Where becoming a mom is one of those beautiful experiences, let's be real, it can be overwhelming, touching on this pain point. Everywhere you turn, there's new advice, different opinions, and a flood of information that makes you wonder, what's actually right for my baby? So this is also where you can use this ad copy to actually sell any product, but in related to this value and pain point, we've created like very powerful and captivating ad copy, which is just literally extrapolating the value, the pain point, and some offer concepts of it. So here you can see I've pretty much then written, you don't have to figure it out all alone. I expect back, easy to follow guide, cuts through the noise, giving you clear practical answers on newborn care, sleep, feeding, and everything in between, so you can feel a little more confident, prepared, and ready to enjoy every moment with your little one. Simplified guidance, real sport expert approved. So now we've written a really powerful piece of ad copy related to this free guide that I just came up with by going through the system. And this is where you don't have to have any more creativity. It literally is like, how can I use the pain point, the value system, and ideal outcome to write a piece of ad copy? And now the beautiful thing about this is we go a step further, which is touching on these pain points and ideal outcomes and what else we can sell this persona. And this is a great way to really think about how we can scale our business, figure out new verticals or new horizontals in our actual business that can also touch on or sell to our unique persona. So at the end of the day, lifetime value and how much a customer spends with us is extremely important. And a lot of times, by just writing out a few of these different things, we can then think of some really cool products that we can come up with, or some things we can add as components to our core offer. So in this case, of course, this is more for e-com brand. What else can we sell for that to that baby? Everything from super cheap to super expensive for that ideal customer. I come up with like some crazy ideas. Of course, there's a pain point. So like health insurance for pregnant moms, a surety, supplements for pregnant moms, diapers, baby clothes. There's a lot of extra things we can sell because we really focus on that pain point. Now, same with these other pain points and ideal outcomes. So an ideal outcome is pretty much switching it. So having absolute clarity of exactly how to care for a baby. So how do I write that as a headline or offer concept? How would it feel to know exactly what to do as a newborn mom? And of course, I can integrate this into the ad copy. So if you really spend a bit of time in the system, it becomes super powerful. And secondly to this is because you have a spreadsheet, you can have a very scientific approach of testing what pain points get the most response in terms of your creatives, what ideal outcomes get the most response in terms of your creatives, and then extrapolate and integrate that into your actual offer and your business. So by just doing these, a couple of these pain points and ideal outcomes, you're going to build a massive table. And you can have very in-depth knowledge of your persona and your ideal customer. And you're going to really create messaging super powerful to really touch on their insecurities, their pain points, their ideal outcomes, and their dreams. So by doing this is, as I said in the offer, first thing we talk about is niching down. This is how you really niche down into your messaging to touch on the pain points and the real value system for that customer. And by them feeling so understood, they're going to want to do business with you because they feel like you understand who they are to their core. And of course, we can create really good products and offers on the back of this. So the next thing I'm going to show you guys, which is really powerful, is after creating this whole table, I'm going to use ChatGPT to then extrapolate this information to then write you the ad copy, the content, etc. So this is why this is so powerful. So what we're going to simply do is go in ChatGPT. AI is super important right now, and everybody should use AI to increase their productivity. And I'm going to show you why this is so powerful. So what we're going to do is we're literally going to give all of this information to ChatGPT, and you're going to see how it creates ad copy for us. So we're going to literally say we're in this baby niche. So I'm going to be like, write ad copy for a business in the baby niche. The baby niche that sells to, now we're going to use the type of persona, pregnant mother. Just rephrase this, pregnant moms. And then value, hobbies, and interests that wants to educate themselves on newborn babies and everything to become a good mom. So giving it a lot of context. And we're going to give them that pain point, and they feel overloaded by too much information and advice. So we're literally giving ChatGPT all of these things, and this is like perfect prompt engineering to get it to a point of creating perfect ad copy for you. And now you can simply get it to generate really good ad copy for you. So I'm going to just simply ask it, create ad copy for a Facebook ad, and let's just see what happens. And so what's really great about this is you can use this exact same context to then, of course, create not only ad copy, email copy, help you designing a better offer, helping you to create organic content, and everything now is, because ChatGPT has so much information, everything is contextual, and everything in terms of messaging is perfectly touching on your exact persona. So now using a bit of AI, and we can create really good ad copy really fast, and it's very contextually based. So this is a really powerful system, and the more you guys use it, the more you can see the potential of this, and it's going to teach you a lot of lessons about your business, as well as like how to actually market for your exact persona or exact customer. Now, of course, all of these are linked in here, and as I mentioned, we've got bonus ChatGPT prompts we made for our clients. So this is marketing prompts and exactly how to formulate really good prompts like just the one I showed you before. And there's a link to this. So I'm just going to quickly show you guys how this also works and how you can apply this to your business. And this also massively increases your productivity and output to create really compelling marketing, really compelling ad copy, etc. So I'm just going to show you guys how this system quickly works. So this is our prompt system, simple link also in that Figma that we supplied you guys. And it's extremely simple. So you're simply going to go to the section that you need help with. Of course, we've made sections around personas of tree, analyzing links, general marketing, ChatGPT prompts, specifically things around email, YouTube, customer support, SEO, etc. And then, of course, anything around copywriting. So we're just going to click on one of them, automating Instagram growth, or let's do even crafting unique USPs. Crafting USPs, for example. So this is a really quick way where you can just use our prompts and then simply fill in the missing components, which is around your business and your ideal outcome. And you can create really powerful prompts really fast. And of course, because this is now 2025 and O3 just came out, which is ChatGPT's latest and most powerful model, I definitely recommend using O3 High to achieve this, and you're going to get really, really good results. So the other reason why this is so powerful is a lot of things around ChatGPT, I think the average client doesn't even know how powerful it is and how many use cases there are. So this is a really great way to actually find out how much ChatGPT can save you and increase your output. So really go through this. It's all for free, of course, so you guys are very welcome. And yeah, give us any feedback you have regarding all of this prompts. So that's a persona system. And I really want you guys to focus on 3 main areas of using this. One is going to be creating your ads and ad copy. The second is going to be your content. And the third and most important thing that a lot of people overlook is really optimizing your landing page, everything from the headlines you guys are using, the pain points that the copy and the content of your landing pages is touching on. If you write this persona system out well, you're going to have so many pain points you can address, so many insecurities, so many ideal outcomes that you're all going to use in all of your ad copy and your landing page copy, so that you can write extremely specific copy and you'll see how powerful and how persuasive this is. And you've approached this from a very scientific point. So I'm super excited what you guys are going to do with that. And I think this is a real game changer for anyone that needs a lot of clarity around their business and who they're selling to.
So right now we're going to dive deep into some winning creatives that are actually working for some of the biggest coaches in the industry and some local coaches down here in Gold Coast and Brisbane, Australia as well. So as you can see here, we've got some of Ty Lopez. Vian actually just had a podcast with his head CMO this week, actually. Some of Jeremy Miner, who we've done some events with, and so on. Now, regards to all of these winning creators, we actually have a library right here where you can press and you can actually look through what makes them a good creative. They'll get like instantly drawn to the video. So watch this, for example.
I will help you make $10,000 in the next 6 months, or I'll send you a full refund.
It's just a great hook. It's like you're out of everything, you're going to get a result from watching his ad and actually taking the next few steps. You're going to get the money back he mentions, which is his offer, or obviously the $10,000. So I think it's a really, really good hook for an ad that he's running. He'll probably even run this as some social content as well. But yeah, I just wanted to run through one of his hooks. Let's go to some other content here. Ty Lopez. The one good thing about Ty Lopez's content is he's got pattern interrupts throughout all of his ads. So say, for example, you're watching this, is one camera, and then he's got another camera literally shooting the same angle, just like a slightly different frame, which if you're scrolling, you need something like things changing all of the time. If it's text, if it's the editing, if it's the framing, if it's all this types of stuff to keep the viewer actually engaged in what that person's saying.
Down here, this is a different house.
Even everything to the text, see how the text is, it's just engaging, it's different to just like normal subtitles at the very bottom.
The new garage is down here. This is a different house. So it's a 20-car garage down there. But more important than the here
Instant status again.
Was it started a movement, which was the 67 steps. People were like, remember the old here in my garage?
Let's have a look at some other ads, scaling with systems.
We're at the lowest point of person-to-person trust in the last 40 years in the United States. If you boil...
It just, this is a great hook as well because it makes you curious and actually want to know what it is, what he's saying in a podcast type format. A lot of the clients that we do work with and shoot with, they do a lot of ads, social content, and of course podcasts in different podcast rooms. Now, you don't actually have to do a podcast to film content like this. You can hire out a podcast room. You can just write out some scripts with the sheets that we've actually created and then just pretend you're in a podcast looking at no one, but it's like a podcast type setup. So it acts as if, you're cutting bits from a podcast. It seems more natural. It seems easier to talk if you're looking this way, pretending you're like on a podcast versus like having to remember, or if you don't have a teleprompter, then looking at the camera. So that's just a different way to actually shoot some ad content. Let's have a look at one of Subrasubi's.
They said all I needed was a new logo.
Now, Subrasubi's ads are very, very high productions. I'm guessing they would take weeks upon weeks upon weeks, maybe even months of planning, actors and stuff like that. So obviously, if you have the budget to do something like this, it would be very beneficial. But he likes and tends to make a lot of jokes regarding the main problem. So say, for example, the trust factor, if you watch this.
Is this some more exposure? And then everything would be all right.
They've just basically mentioned what marketing agencies say before they go on board and close a client is like, all you need is some more exposure, all you need is more this, all you need is more this, and everything will be fine, you'll be getting sales. which they've sort of like made a joke out of that as the start of their ad. So they can resonate with people that's actually done this with previous agencies. So then those previous people that have got the previous agencies can be like, oh, yep, that was me. I'm going to keep watching. So it's just like resonating with the right type of audience.
One thing that's very important with all these ads, and this is especially for coaches, a recurring theme, 2 things you want to do in your ad. 1, educate, and 2, entertain. So you always want to have a mixture of entertaining as well as educating. And if you see the most elite level ads, they always tell a story in the ad as well. So those 3 key things is really critical. If you see like the top performing coaching ads, they're always telling a story, they're always educating, but they're also entertaining. So you want to keep attention as long as possible, and you want to give a lot of value so people feel like they get a good return on their time. But a story is one of the oldest psychological triggers ever. It's one of the first things we as humans adapted our brains to do, is learn from stories. So make sure you always have a story and a narrative in your ad. And another really good tip of what works as good ads is just look at what works as good organic for top coaches in your industry. So, for example, go to Alex Ramosi on YouTube, go to Shorts, sort by most viewed, and you'll see there's a clear structure of when the hook is, when it gets cut. The whole structure is very much a reoccurring theme, and you'll see that theme throughout all of the top performing content for all of the top performing coaches. So that's the easiest way to really learn and reference, is literally go and look what is killing on organic and then integrate some of those lessons into your own ads as well.
Awesome. Now we can have a look at one more ad. Let's go Jeremy Minor.
Hey Jim, I'm just following up about our call last week.
So really, really engaging, and probably something that a lot of people do. So say, for example, if you're, you sent out a quote, or you've sent out something, you're trying to close someone, for example, and you're using the word following up, which I'm guessing a lot of people do. This resonates with a lot of those people. So all of a sudden, when they're watching a video like this, they're like, oh, that's me. And then they've obviously added some bits like this.
About our call last week, do you have any more questions? Lowered status frame.
Stuff like that, like actually educating you while you're just sort of feeling a bit bad because it's something that you do yourself. So it's just really, really engaging from the first like 4 seconds. And then obviously from what he's saying at the very, very start, he's going to educate you on what to do instead of the thing that you're currently doing, which is follow up. So it's just really educational paired with really, really engaging.
Of desperation.
But as you can see, there's lots of editing effects that make this really engaging. So say, for example, like when he uses the black and white, when he uses the zoom in effect, when he uses certain colors on certain words as well, it comes down to a lot of different variables. But at the end of the day, this is what makes a really, really engaging ad a great ad.
So one thing that's a key takeaway for a lot of coaches, especially around the 7-figure mark, and they're not hitting 8 figures yet, and they're not filming enough creative, have enough creative output. So a lot of the multi-7 figures coaches that we've consulted, or one of our clients, and we've dealt with them and helped them out and to scale, if they're not used to filming a lot of creators all the time, one thing I see as a common mistake that we always, as a media team, have to help them out with as well, is they have to be more expressive and more energetic on the content, especially if it's ads and hooks. You can go crazy with energy, you can go crazy with being super expressive, you can go screaming in the camera, and you might feel like that's way too much, and it might be out of your comfort zone. But remember, if you're watching a video on a small iPhone, that big amount of energy and screaming and stuff on camera is not going to be that much on an ad. So a lot of times, try and push yourself to be louder, more expressive, more energetic. And remember, end of the day, like if you have a lot of energy and conviction behind what you're saying, then of course people will feel that and resonate that and actually help you close, and your whole funnel will improve by just having a lot of expressiveness and a lot of conviction of what you're actually saying and trying to educate people in. So that is something that is a learned skill to be in front of camera, but something to always keep in the back of your mind. How can I make this ad more engaging? How can you be more expressive? How can I have more energy? And one thing to say with that, always be polarizing with your content. Don't be afraid to have people hate on you or dislike what you're saying. So engineering some polarization into your content where there's some people that hate you, some people that love you is a lot better than trying to get everybody to love you. Because at the end of the day, polarizing content is what sells. And if you think about the top figures in the world right now, the most influential and powerful figures, they all have an audience that loves them and all an audience that hates them. And of course, that in content and ads creates a lot of comments and engagement, which of course boosts your algorithm. So don't be afraid to get some haters. And if you don't get a bit of negative comments on your content, I would actually suggest to engineer some more polarization into your content.
Now that the ad content's spoken about, we're going to be speaking more about what organic content's working really well right now in like the coaching online business space. As you can see here, I have got a couple of examples. As you can see on the screen next to me, this is he's actually blowing up massively right now, and he watches a lot of videos simply just like reviewing and watching other people's reels, what they're saying, what they're talking about, maybe if they're at events, maybe if they're like live coaching, and like not criticizing them, but just like overviewing and then putting his 2 cents over the top of that. Now, he definitely does have some haters, let me say that. Although, as like Vian said before, having polarizing content, I think he does this very, very well. He speaks about exactly what he thinks you should do, even if it is the right thing or even if it's the wrong thing, he still puts his 2 cents in. And from this, very, very controversial sometimes, but hey, it works. People watch it, people share it, people comment on it because of this exact reason. Secondly to that, we have Patrick Bet-David. Now, he does a lot of just a phone speaking to camera, as well as, of course, some professional type stuff as well, of course. He's got a full podcast room, full media team and stuff like that. But he does do a lot of behind the scenes, what he's thinking about, what he's doing day to day, which is really good just to showcase that, you're a human as well. You're not just some public figure. Another thing that's working massively right now, which you will see a bunch on TikTok, Instagram Reels and stuff like this, is street interviews. You can engineer a street interview so it doesn't have to be like fully legit. But if someone's just asking you something on the street, it makes you just want to know what's happening and what questions they're asking. It sort of makes you a little bit curious, I suppose you could say. Now, this is actually the same guy as above here, just actually saying what he does for a living, showcasing a bit about what he's learned over the past couple of years and stuff like that. But whatever industry you're in and whatever you're trying to sell, you can reverse engineer, cool, what do I want people to know about me? And say that on a street interview, if it's real or if it's not real.
So one takeaway that's also critical when you do make content and ads, the best ads is the ones that you don't know they're ads until 20 to 30 seconds in. So if you have a extremely organic style video, like for example, a street interview, but at the end of that, there's a call to action to actually sell you to something, then that's a really powerful ad because the watch time and the retention time is super, super high. So you're going to get very, very cheap CPMs. You're going to get very cheap clicks because people get invested before they actually feel like they're getting sold to. Where traditional ads, if they start selling you straight away, you can almost get this, or with traditional ads where they try and sell you straight away, people really just stop and they just scroll past that. So the best kind of ads is the ones where it slowly introduces you into the fact of getting sold, and it feels extremely natural and organic on the platform, contextually aware to the platform and what content works there. So again, like the CEO of TikTok would be like, the types of ads that work on TikTok are TikToks, they're not ads. So same with every social media platform you're on, make sure it's contextually aware to work on that platform as an organic piece of content.
Now we have one from Hormozy. As you know, everyone knows Hormozy. He's crushing it in this space. He does one thing really, really well, and it's very, he does make actionable videos. So a video showcasing 3 steps to do X, Y, Z, 2 steps to do this, 5 steps to make your funnel more, bring in more conversions. Whatever it is, it's really actionable and really just tangible things for you to go off and do straight away. So it's just practical advice that you can implement right away. Are always great videos because they're just pure value. From that, we have Unemployable, one of our amazing clients that we work with here on the Gold Coast. Podcast type reels, I mentioned this before, but actually from a podcast that you're filming, you can cut up really short reels from that full length podcast. And then just add different type of edits on it. You can add more of like a cinematic type edit, which I know a couple other companies are doing now. Or you can just add an edit with some captions on it and test which one works. But yeah, the podcast style is working really well right now. Then from here, we have Andy Elliott. So Andy Elliott does some really, really good training type content. Say, for example, he'll hire a media company like ourselves with the camera set up to actually come with him in a training room and just film his live trainings. If it's to a different company, if it's for his sales team or whoever it's for. Sometimes it's a little bit controversial, but that's why it works really well. He is very hardcore in the way he trains. That's why it works really well on social media. And it's very tangible and like actionable steps of what he's talking about. So if it's talking about sales, if he's talking about you need to do X, Y, Z, why aren't you doing X, Y, Z? It actually teaches people while they're watching the reel. And then lastly, we have another one by Alex Hormozi, and it's simply just a photo with a quote or something that maybe he says on a YouTube video, maybe something that he says in a reel. And say, for example, you have a reel that goes really, really well because you're speaking about a certain subject. You can actually engineer this type of content from that previous reel by utilizing some of the same content, like written content in this photo. From there, these are all of the content types that are working massively right now on Instagram and all the social channels. And again, if you're posting them on Instagram, if you're posting them yourself, you can do this, or if you've got a VA or someone internally doing this, you can get them to distribute it on YouTube Shorts, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and basically all the platforms. LinkedIn as well if you use that for B2B. So don't just post this just on Instagram. Definitely post this on all the different social channels. Awesome. So from here, I'm going to show you some of the content, ads, promos, etc. that we've made for our clients, whether that be like for events or if that's for like actually their funnels, their VSLs or whatever it may be. I'm going to run through this now and show you some examples. Hey guys, so I wanted to just break down some different content that's working and some of the different content that we've created and are continuously creating for our clients. Some of you may know we are a media company as well. So we also do the shooting, the editing, and the production of some content for our clients, if that's ad content or if that's social media content or if that's event content, whatever that may be, we do specialize in that as well. In the Gold Coast and Brisbane. Obviously still work with everyone around the world in regards to like advertising and consulting programs. Other than that, I wanted to just dive deep into some of the content we're creating for some of our clients. So as you can see here, one of our clients, Elijah, we do a lot of like the photography videos and stuff for him. Good little things that he is doing is when we're shooting content, we shoot B-roll shots so he can utilize those B-roll shots as actual reels by themselves. So say, for example, we did a whole B-roll shoot day. He will utilize those reels, just like, say, for example, this is just one shot and then just putting some text over that. And, you know, you could schedule like a whole 8-hour day and just do that over and over and over. And you have like consistent reels of some, like you just put text over whatever you're actually talking about. And it's a really great way to maximize your time with content. Now, these are some other ones as well, talking. This is more of, so this is like an interview one. So one thing I'll recommend regarding these is if you have any common objections or if you have any common like questions that prospects or people that want to work with you are actually saying, it's probably beneficial to create content regarding that exact thing. So if it's a common question, it's no longer a common question because you've answered it in your content, in your marketing, on your website, or whatever that may be. Other than that, it's just a really great way to showcase what you're selling, your service, and stuff like that. One thing I've definitely learned is you can't sell a secret. So definitely get out and, create content on what you're providing, your results, and stuff like that. Similar to this one, as you can see on the screen, this is just like tips and tricks, some different things that he's learned in the industry as a property developer and buyer's agent, and different things he would recommend regarding the industry. Now, as I mentioned, he is a property developer and buyer's agent. He would be talking about the certain sites, the plans that he has to work on those sites and things to do, his plans moving forward, so his followers and like community can see what's happening. So yeah, there's some different ideas that I would recommend regarding content, and that's just with Elijah. Now moving on to some of our other clients. So for example, Sasha. We do a lot of Sasha's event content, social media content, promo content, and just ad content as well. So I would do the same sort of thing, short form. So like, say for example, he's targeting e-commerce. So you would be talking about a lot of things within e-commerce, like if it's objections, if it's like different tips and tricks, different learnings that he's learned over the years, having podcasts with like his audience would benefit from listening to, tips and tricks again. This is type of content that we filmed at his event. So he'll be breaking down some learnings and some action steps for his clients. So we can cut that up and use that for social media content as well. One thing I would definitely recommend is if you have an event, if you're a coach or a business owner that has an event, 100% get a professional videographer, get a professional a media team to come down and create content from that event, because it's like endless social media and endless ad content or whatever you're utilizing that for. Definitely maximize that. Now, again, more podcast type content. So if anyone has objections, you can do that as well. And then more promotional cinematic style content. So Tom, if you can just add the example here. So here are some of the cinematic event type content that we create for Sasha. Now moving on to some of our other clients, Unemployable. Now we've been working with the team at Unemployable and Eric for probably around 5 years. And our team shoot all of his podcast. So he actually interviews some really, really cool names in the business space, like Dan Martell, Pauline Hanson. He's done one of the co-founders of Xero, the accounting software, and just some really, really cool business influential people, as you can see on their YouTube, even some of our clients. But yeah, we film a lot of his actual podcast, as you can see here. And we do a lot of his behind the scenes content and promotional content. So actually promoting our podcast, promoting if something's coming out, stuff like that, which is really, really cool. Moving on. I would actually mention as well, sometimes you don't actually need to be in a podcast to shoot a podcast, as I mentioned in this course. Anyway, you could just hire out a podcast room, pretend that someone's sitting just here, and then just shoot content that you want people to know about your business, about you, etc. And yeah, you don't need to have that other person on just to capture and maximize the time there, because it's very easy to shoot podcast content because it's just acting like you're in a flow conversation. So that's one thing I would recommend. Also, now Ryan, we do a lot of Ryan's event content, or his event partners and social content partners, I would say. And we actually flew down to New Zealand to do a gig with him and David Goggins, which was really, really cool. We did an event with them, but we've worked alongside him with the Sharks from Shark Tank, Daniel G, Jeremy Meyer, and some really, really big names. Again, we do a lot of his, we do a lot of his podcasts. We do a lot of his podcasts, social media content, event content, and all of that stuff. As you can see, this is a video we made for one of his events. And it went pretty well. On his YouTube, it got 38K, which is pretty good. Although my point I'm trying to make here is if you're a coach, I would still really recommend, as I mentioned before, just getting someone to come down to shoot your events, because you can promote them as you can get someone to create a promotional video like such to promote that, to get tickets for the net, to get buys and tickets and stuff like that sold for the next event and the next event. And you can utilize that as marketing on your site, on your socials, etc. So would really recommend doing so. The same with Jess, a lot of more cinematic promotional content. Same with her events. Same with Morgan, been working with him for years and years now. Same with him regarding to events, showcasing just creating promo videos, social media content, testimonials for his events to get tickets sold and get people to know about the events that he does. Same with Liz. She's an NLP coach, big events down here in Queensland. We did the exact same for her, promoting her content and social media reels. And the same for Ray. Now, as you can see on the screen, here's some cool snippets of different content we've done for Ray. A lot more cinematic. He likes to showcase a bit more of a cinematic style to then lead people through his Instagram, and the Instagram that is his funnel, showcasing results and stuff like that. That way, that is Ray's funnel. But yeah, I don't want to take too much time up here regarding the content. I just wanted to mention, those little actionable steps regarding what the content's actually for. It's not just like shooting cool content. There is like a strategy behind shooting the content, and there's some tips and tricks to utilize for yourself if you're doing content. Let's get on to the rest of the course. Rest of the course content now.
So we've touched on content, offers, creatives, what is working. Now we're going to dive deep into ad campaign structures. Now, when I started making this course, I really thought about, should I like include a component of like actually how to use Facebook ads and stuff like that? But I don't really think that's of a lot of value, as there's infinite free videos on YouTube of how to use Facebook ads, how to set up ads, how to configure all of that. There's tons of YouTube videos out there for that. So this is really about like the structure in Facebook and different ways to set up your ads. Now, before we get started on the structure of ads, I would love to just touch on the different types of campaign setups on Facebook. So there's pretty much three different campaigns that we run all of our ads on. One is ABOs, ad budget optimizations, CBOs, which is campaign budget optimizations, and then the ASC campaigns, which is those Advantage Plus campaigns. Now, I normally suggest testing ABOs because you can isolate your audiences, scaling with CBOs because you give Meta more power of where to assign budget. And then, of course, for the Advantage Plus, I normally like to put in around 20 to 30% of the budget into that, which is also a scaling campaign, but you can chuck a lot of creatives in that. So normally a lot of this is also based on the ad account and how much money you're spending. And there's a lot of complexity and nuance involved in that. So we'd be happy to show you on just like a free call of what we can actually recommend you guys to do on that side. But I really just want to dive deep into the types of different funnels and how you can set up that on Facebook. And of course, a lot of this you can extrapolate into the other paid platforms. We're mainly going to focus on Meta and Instagram because, of course, we think that's still the best opportunity to, of course, grow and scale in. But yeah, a lot of this can be extrapolated to other platforms. So there's a lot of different ways to set up ads and pretty much run different lead gen objectives. We're going to mostly touch on lead generation. Of course, if you have a high ticket offer as a coach, most of the sales process is going to either getting leads or actually selling them something small via a landing page. We're going to touch on both of these. Now, my overall thinking and framework of thinking about what type of funnels to set up, what type of ad campaigns to run, is the complexity of your funnel is directly proportional in the complexity of your offer. So if you're selling something super basic, you don't need a lot of complexity in the funnel. To give you an extreme example, if you're selling a t-shirt, you don't need to create a VSL on explaining the t-shirt is black and the size is large. You can simply run an image ad with a t-shirt. People know everything that they need to know by the simple fact that like you're selling something basic. So you can get away with an image ad. Where if you're selling something extremely complex like a back-end AI scaling system for example, plumbers, it's going to require a lot of complexity and nuance in your funnel because there's a lot to explain to just actually clarify on what you're selling and why it's so valuable to the end consumer. So firstly, the complexity of the funnel is directly proportional to the complexity of the offer. And then secondly to that, I would also say another direct correlation is literally how much you charge. So if you're selling something for $100,000, in most cases, you're going to have a bit more complexity in your funnel in terms of like follow-ups, multiple emails, multiple touch points, etc., versus selling something for $10. So that being said, I'm going to jump straight into different ideas of how to run ads. You can test all of this. This is all based on the previous framework I just mentioned. And of course, also how much money you're spending. If you're spending $10 a day, you can't do all of these things. You can probably just do the most basic funnels because you have a budget constraint. So when you start scaling, you also want to test a lot of different things. So I'd also suggest engineering some testing of a lot of these structures into your actual business to actually find where you can get really good returns on investment. Now, the most basic thing you can do to sell a B2B high ticket offer as a coach is you simply run an ad from Facebook to a Facebook lead generation form. Normally that would be like some free value. And then you get a lead in exchange for the free value you give them. That lead then you can go and call and try, get an appointment and sell them via a phone call or a meeting. If it's something small, you can also sell them that just by one call. But the most basic thing you can do in terms of like an ad, simple video ad, what you're selling and what you're giving away for free. And then you send that to a basic Facebook form. And I'll show you guys some of the backend setup stuff in the next coming modules, but that's the most basic thing. Now, for every one of these strategies, there is a version of it where you run a video view campaign, because all of these campaigns are normally conversion based. So in this case, this will be a lead objective. But for the video view campaign, this is just a pivot or test for that first campaign where you run a video view ad. You get a lot of engagement and awareness around that video, and then you simply retarget people who's watched 50%, 75% of that video with an offer. So the great thing about that strategy is you can reach a lot more people and then pre-qualify your audience to then send them an offer with that form. So for every one of these examples, there is a video view way to do it as well. So I'm not going to re-mention that, but just keep that in mind. So the next super basic thing to do is we run an ad where they simply send us a message, either via Instagram or Facebook, where we then send them a bunch of scripts in that, and then send them and offer something for free and close them that way. Now, why this is so good is because if they DM you on Instagram, you can always reply to them whenever you want. You've got access to them now. So you can send them a voice message, personalized message. Hey, thanks for inquiry. I have XYZ service. I would first like to find out a bit more about you, your situation, what you're doing, see if you can actually be a good fit for us. So there's a lot of personalization you can do in these DM messages. And the beauty of that is, I put it in here as well, you can introduce automation with tools like ManyChat, which I'm going to touch on later, where you can automate a lot of these processes with that, including voice messages. The next step, which is a bit more complex, is of course, we have an ad on Facebook. We then send that to a VSL or a landing page. That landing page then captures the information and you pretty much book in a call or they take an action. And for these landing page ads, I'm going to show you all of the different style of landing page structures you can also have. And yeah, we'll go through all of them as well. Now, the other big example of this is, of course, we send them to the landing page for a free offer, and then that landing page redirects to a paid offer and some free value. And then, of course, they can book in a call, and we'll discuss that as well. So just to quickly touch on, of course, this is just the example where we send them to the DM chat, and from there we send them to a landing page or they book in a call. Now, one thing that's really powerful with the Facebook forms that I want to touch on as well, and that's the fact that after they fill in the form, you can still send them to your website. So this is what we do a lot, where we pre-qualify them, capture their lead information, and then we simply say to them on the button on the Facebook form, hey, click this button to complete your application or to get access to the free value. Then send them to a more complex lander where they fill in more information, and then we know that that lead is much more qualified because they even took the second step or action, and we can prioritize them with sales calls, marketing, and messaging, as well as even emails to make sure that we really close those super hot leads. this is the most basic structures. Another extrapolation of the DM, which is already talked about, is the messenger bot, where we pretty much get them to send us a message. We then have ManyChat send them 3 to 5 automations, which is normally always the same thing in the script anyway. Hey, who are you? What you do? Like, what's your current role? Why did you inquire? How can we help you? What are you looking for out of this? Ask them the pre-qualifying questions before you actually try and sell them anything, so that you know that they can be, of course, a potential client and a real lead. Now, another strategy that is really interesting that we've seen quite a few people do and has some really high returns is you pretty much just run ads to get followers. So there's a certain sequence of ads you run that's like very value-giving, like style reels. You run to then get followers on your Instagram. And then your Instagram becomes the landing page where you post a lot of free content and value. And then that follower, for, let's say, the next 2 weeks, consumes a lot of your content, becomes super warm. Then you give them a free offer on your stories where they can take action, like messaging you to get the free value. And then they just fall into your funnel as well. So you can get followers for around $1 a follower. And if it's the right followers by 1, targeting the right audience, 2, targeting, or 2, the messaging and the content is also for that audience, so that the people actually following you are very, very high quality prospects. And then of course you can sell them once they consume 2 weeks of your content. It's a much more natural way, and they're a lot more like soft sold. So this strategy works pretty well as well. Now, what I want to touch on is the traffic sources. From here, what we're going to do is I'm going to go into some of the actual funnel structures. So traffic sources, we all know the basic traffic sources. We got Facebook, we got Google and YouTube, we got TikTok, we got Twitter now as well. This is very big. We got all of them as organic channels. We've got Twitter, which Elon is pushing quite hard on making a really good ad platform. So I definitely suggest, if you're a much bigger company, to test that, because you might get very, very cheap CPMs. And then of course, we've got referrals and affiliates, which is one of the key things a lot of people aren't really focusing on. Is you can get a lot of business just from referrals, and you can scale a referral funnel like you would a paid funnel to get, instead of getting clients, you get affiliates who then sell your products. And that could be a massive return on ad spend. We've seen some crazy figures that you wouldn't even believe by just simply hiring affiliates to sell our products as the main channel versus trying to get customers. Now, the other one, of course, is your outbound or your outreach, which is normally like cold calling and stuff like that. And you can integrate a lot of the online funnels with the outbound calls. So instead of like, you're calling someone, they want some more information, you send them an email of a PDF. Instead of doing that, you send them an email to the link of your landing page, and then they just become like a normal traffic that goes through your landing page. Now, we've actually built and we've tested 3 different new methodologies of getting crazy results in terms of outbound and traffic sources that we use just for our clients. So we don't really disclose that online because we've gotten a lot of results from that. So if that's something that you guys would be interested in, we'd love to have a chat. Now, moving on with some of the funnel structures and just touching on a bit of like ManyChat and why that's just so powerful. So you can, 1, of course, automate a lot of your messaging and conversations with that. You can 2, put that as a chatbot on your VSL. So instead of having a normal chat where if people leave that chat, you can't talk to them anymore, you have this ManyChat bot running where if they want to chat on your site, it goes to their Messenger or their Instagram. They then chat with you. Even if they leave the site, you can always follow up with them manually. And then why ManyChat's also so powerful is, 1, you can tag all of the data and put it into your email system with specific tags. 2, you can also create like custom automations which uses ChatGPT as a trained model to then become superhuman in terms of like a human experience and feels like actually chatting to a human. And of course, we've got the voice messages as well. So this is an example of our Facebook forms, very simple. We normally run these like Facebook forms with like a very basic, super understandable, free offer. We ask them a couple of qualifying questions so that we actually have some data of the person in there, and we don't want to waste time with just having thousands of leads that has absolutely no potential. So we want to make sure that the value that we give in this free thing is very valuable to our ideal customer. Ask them a couple of qualifying questions, and they submit the info. We get their name, number, email, and let's say 3 to 5 qualifying questions. I'll talk a bit more about the back end of that, but after that, we like to direct them to either 1, the free value, or 2, our website to take more action, or 3, to give us a call. So this really just depends on how your back end is set up, how you're currently doing all of your sales and your marketing, and how your back end system is set up. Now, of course, just touching on the pre-qualifying questions, this is the main 4 you need, which is trying to figure out what budget they have, if they're the right person to actually wanting to buy this, or is their manager the person we actually need to speak to, what's their problem they actually need it, and when they actually want to buy. So a good way to also frame these things is we can ask them like kind of indirectly. So instead of asking them how much budget they have to invest with us, I'd rather ask them, if you were to have X sales channel and it would produce Y result, how much would you be willing to invest in building that system? So it's more about like them investing in their own business versus investing in you, but they invest in their business by buying your thing. So there's a couple of tricks there of like how to write specific copy for that. Also refer to our persona copy system to run that through these questions. But that is some qualifying questions you need. And of course, you need to make sure that your Facebook and meta targeting is in line with that. So oftentimes, we just target interest around that specific thing. Make sure that we don't really target under like 25. And we also make sure we target some other rich demographics as well. Now,
Do you want to pause it there?
no, I'll just move on, bro. Oh, right. Bro, I'll just keep going. Now, moving on, I'm just going to touch a bit more on like the VSLs and different VSL structures. So now touching on the VSLs, we've got a couple of variations on this. So firstly, we just send traffic to a one-step landing page. Normally, we get their contact information in exchange for some free value, free guide, etc. Another version of this is we simply sell them something very cheap. And if we do this right, we can break even on our ad spend, which means we get infinite free leads for the high ticket offer. The second variation of that is the second step of the VSL as a free value, as well as convincing them to hop on a call with us to then transact and make a big transaction. This is probably the type of VSL that we're running right now during this course, where the first page you see is like what's included in the value, put in your details. Second page is what you're seeing now with a bunch of value, and then hopefully you take an action from there. Now, again, there's a paid variation of this, which of course is where you sell in a low ticket item, or and downsell, or the reoccurring revenue could be a great first point to hit on as well. Now, of course, the main step, and this is like when you get to big scale, when you're doing 8 figures plus, you're not running a VSL anymore. You just got a website with 10 different offerings. You have free things, paid things, different opportunities to work with you, and you become more of a brand versus just trying to sell one offer. So this is like the ultimate extrapolation where you get to a point of this always running multiple offers at the same time, and you have a website where you can just direct traffic and people can take action in multiple ways. Now, of course, before you get there, I would definitely focus on the funnel side, as this is going to get you the highest returns in starting. And of course, the guys running these big websites have a lot of data and a lot of market insight to really optimize those sites as well. So now we're going to look at backend infrastructure. So this is pretty much everything running in the backend of your business to really nurture the leads, help you sell, and really get you to the point of really scaling up. So There's pretty much two different ways to go about this. The one way is go high level, which is an all-encompassing software that pretty much does everything. The second version of that is individual tools. Now, I pretty much built this and designed this presentation in a way where as you grow, there is more and more tools to use. And so as the complexity of your business and the scale of your business increases, you also want to have a more complex and more robust back-end system to make sure that you have the most efficient funnel in place. So the first thing you want to do, of course, is set up your calendar or a booking call thing, as well as, of course, your payment system, which you should have by now, which is normally like a Stripe or PayPal. So in Go High Level, they have a calendar, or we normally just use Calendly for our clients, and even our website right now is using Calendly. Second stage, of course, is having your website, which you should have almost straight away after you launch as a coach. You can do this by either like a ClickFunnels, Framer, Webflow, Squarespace, or even WordPress, or Go High Level has this integrated as well. Now, the third step, this is probably where most of the 6 or 7 figure coaches are still working and struggling with. And that is some basic automations and backend. So basic automations like sending a few email follow-ups, sending some SMSs to prospects before when they make a booking and booking a call, having a CRM in place where you have all of these people tagged. We have all of these people tagged in what actions they've taken in your funnel. So mainly we achieve this by using Zapier and ClickSend and Google Sheets to have a basic CRM. Or if you want to use one of those proper CRMs, you're very welcome to. Or of course, Go High Level has the automations in CRM as well. The another tool, of course, you want to launch at this point would be your email backend system. We normally like to stick to Klaviyo as it has the most integration with tools like even ManyChat. And of course, they have a very easy to use interface and a robust tagging system. And it's very vertically integrated to Shopify and on the e-commerce side as well. So the next step of this is really going super hard into your automations and your follow-up sequences. So this is using like super advanced automations on Klaviyo, sending them 7 to 10 emails when they fill in a form, trying to sell them via those 7 to 10 sequences. I'm tagging them based on if they're taking actions or not, and then changing what they're getting in terms of emails, SMSs, and follow-ups based on what actions they took. And of course, this can also be extrapolated with a lot of AI stuff right now. So you can do really cool things in AI, which is the final step. So that is like going super hard into the AI side. So using platforms like Make.com, N8N, or even Go High Level has some good AI things as well. And this is where you do things like you send them custom proposals using AI, you send them custom follow-ups, voice message sequences, you're sending them specific videos made for them, actually using AI where they think it's real videos. And that's where you really invest 10, 20, 50 grand a month into building more complex and robust AI systems to increase your leverage and, of course, save you time and labor. So this is like the final stage where when you get to the 8-figure stage, when you get to the 8-figure stage, you'll always invest a percentage of your revenue to really build a more robust funnel. Now, I've included some links to some good landing pages. I would say all of the landing pages really have the exact same components as what we see on Instagram, which is being clear on the offer, creating very concise and precise ad copy or copy around, creating very precise and concise copy on your funnel, having a really good offer, showcasing a lot of reviews and testimonials. 90% of what makes a funnel good is having a lot of reviews and testimonials, and that's pretty much showing the proof, not the promise of the end result. Now, we've included a few examples of landing pages. You can see they normally always follow the same format. And of course, good artists copy, great artists steal. So really try and engineer what the top people are doing in the industry and start from that starting point of a funnel that's tested and working, and start at that point to actually run your own funnel and use a lot of the learnings from those funnels. Another thing a lot of clients are not doing, and this is so crazy to me, is they're not doing any conversion rate optimization on these pages. You're sending $10, $20, $50,000 a month of traffic to a site, and you're not split testing headings, images. So lastly, the thing that a lot of clients aren't doing is they're not testing conversion rate optimization. They're not actually optimizing these landing pages by split testing small to medium-sized variables like headings, media, and images used in these landing pages. And so if you're sending $50,000 of traffic a month to a landing page and it converts at 3%, when you can get that page to convert at 4%, you're increasing your entire business by 25%. And that can happen really fast by making really small changes to your landing page in terms of the headline, the video, the call to actions, the social proof, even the way the landing page is structured in terms of what comes first and what comes last can have a massive impact on your conversion rate. So this is a place to really optimize and really dive deep on when you actually get to the stage of doing 6 to 7 figures a year on your actual landing page. Lastly, I'm going to cut to the section where I'm actually going to show you guys some data and some key metrics from the start of the funnel to actually converting, and kind of some industry benchmarks of where you need to sit in terms of CPMs, click-through rates, CPCs, conversion rates on your sites, cost per leads, conversion rates of those leads. And so using that data, making informed decisions around the data is what's going to get you a really good result, and it's going to push you in the direction of what to do next. So I'm also going to touch on that in the next section below. But yeah, there's a free sheet for you guys where you can view some industry standard benchmarks. And I hope this really helps you to make the next decision to help you grow. Hey everybody, Vian here again. So in the initial course, I wanted to, of course, give you guys a resource around specific benchmarks of our funnel and what is considered very good benchmarks to quite bad benchmarks. And then, of course, how you can actually diagnose your funnel compared to these benchmarks. And instead of doing that, I thought I'll just build a full calculator where you guys can, of course, run your entire business off just one calculator. And by simply inputting your data here, you can get a really good understanding of your business, to which decisions to make to really impact your business and really get success, and where there's an immediate need for improvement in your actual business. Now, firstly, we are going to start with our ad account, and we're pretty much going to work down from there. So think of this calculator as like top to bottom of funnel. And what you want to do with this calculator is you actually just want to fill in the values in white. So these values is what you fill in, and then the colored values is pretty much output. So firstly, what we're going to look at is our ad account metrics. Very easy to explain, of course, your CPMs, your outbound click-through rate, which is what percentage of people click on the ad. And then, of course, how much you're actually spending. And so this is really good to do a benchmark in terms of how are we doing for the month or for the week or for a certain period. And if you guys want, of course, you can extrapolate this calculator and create multiple tables or multiple columns of B for specific time periods. And then you can, of course, track how your funnel does overall across a certain period of time. So simply looking at this example, we got CPMs and click-through rates, and you can see if we play around here, then of course our table will change based on these values. Just going to refresh this due to Safari being a bit slow today. So as you can see, these things will get live updated, and then of course it'll also give you a feedback score for each of these metrics. Now, these feedback scores is based on like general coaching metrics. what I would do if I was you guys is I would actually go and research a bit more about your specific niche in coaching and actually get better values of like what is a good to, or like what's a bad to excellent ratio, and just simply change these formulas based on that. But this is just a simple calculator based on normal coaching industry metrics. And the beauty of this is this really affects all of the other outputs in your funnel. So you'll see how smart this really gets. And the beauty of what I'm pretty much doing here is I'm trying to also give you guys some really high key solutions to actually fix each of these problems and how to improve them. So, of course, starting at the ad account, super simple. If you have high CPMs, targeting or ad account health, and of course creatives. And then, of course, most of these benchmarks would be creatives, offer, and targeting. Now, moving on, what's really nice about this is now we got the amount of clicks. So that's the amount of clicks, of course, we're sending to our website. From here, normally website visitors versus clicks would be different. And the difference between the two is normally your drop-off rate. So there's people clicking in an ad, but they're not going to your site because maybe the site is loading very slow. And so there'll naturally be a drop-off rate there. From here, we can then, of course, see how many leads we're getting. And from there, we can see what percentage of our traffic is getting converted on the site. And then, of course, what your cost per lead is based on these two things. So what is really important, of course, is, as I mentioned in the course countless times, is your offer. And having a very good free thing is going to be the biggest impact of increasing your or decreasing your cost per lead, but also increasing the quality of your lead. If you're creating something really free and very valuable that appeals to your exact persona of a customer, that solves a pain point of your exact persona, then you're also going to get a lot less people actually interested in that lead offer if they're not ideal customers. So, for example, if you're a fitness coach looking to work with like very successful and rich people like CEOs and middle management, then creating a free offer around a full workout plan for very busy CEOs to not only optimize their health, but also optimize their mental capacity, that's going to get the type of person interested that is more on that level versus a tire kicker that might not be interested in that exact offer, which, normally there'll be a service on the back of that could be, $2,000 to $5,000 sale. Now, moving on, of course, this is really for two-step funnels. So this is getting a free thing, and then you call or, you give them a call where you try and appointment set them to a sales appointment. So from here, how many appointments can we book from the leads we got? And then from the appointments that we booked, what's our show up rate? How many sales we got? And then, of course, that'll be our close rate as well. So again, this is really coming down to you as a coach being extremely competent and actually executing sales well. And these metrics, of course, the higher they are in terms of like show up rate and close rate, the better your sales team is, and of course the better your sales infrastructure is. Now, moving on, this is the more advanced things for your business, and this is where the sorcery comes in of like how you get insane scale really fast. So of course, in this example, we're going to sell $100 thing. And what we have is 80% gross margin. So that's pretty much because we're selling something online that is digital. The gross margin is, the things you really subtract from there is everything around fulfillment. So that'll be like let's say your 5% commission to your appointment setter and your 15% commission to your closer. And there might be, let's say, another 2 or 3% of like payment processing fees. So let's say we got a 77% gross margin. So now Of course, we did 30 sales and our average revenue per sale is $100. And now the beauty of this is we can instantly see our ROAS in this case. So as you can see on the top example, we spent $1,500. We made 30 sales, so that's 3K. And so our return on ad spend, which is how much money we're putting into our ad funnel and how many dollars we're getting out, is 2 right now. Because again, we spent $1,500, we got $3,000 out. But we really care about current profit. And there's pretty much 2 different profit columns here. And this is to do with like if they make another purchase. So I'll get to that in another stage. But we really care about current profit, which is pretty much cash collected when they actually buy from you right now. And so as you can see, profit on ad spend, which is what is the actual profit you get from every dollar you invest, is you get $1.54 back as pure profit. So what's really powerful and how you really scale fast is getting this ratio to above 2. So what happens then is for every customer you get, you have enough profit left over to double your ad spend and get 2 customers. So this is the golden ratio where you're only really limited by 3 to 5 days of cash flow, meaning like when you're waiting for your Stripe payments to come out. And then, of course, you can reinvest and you can scale your ads really, really fast. So what we want to do is we don't only want a good ROAS, but we want a good return on like actual profit. So for every customer we bring in, we want it to pay for the next 2 customers. And when you get to this ratio of 2, you pretty much have infinite scale in your business, and you can scale it infinitely with positive cash flow. So meaning taking the cash you made from your previous sale, reinvesting it in your business, and driving really powerful growth. So this is an extremely important factor. And a lot of coaches just think about, one, what money they put in their funnel and what they get out, but they never think about like what's the actual profit left behind after paying their teams and doing fulfillment. And this ratio, when you get this to 2, you really change your life and you get that massive 10x growth in your business. So I'll also include churn rate here because, again, as we mentioned in our course, we recommend, of course, having 4 different things. So the free thing, the paid thing, the upsell, and then, of course, the subscription or ongoing, the ongoing monthly payment towards you. So if you don't have the subscription, the churn rate's 100% because they just buy once. But if you have a subscription model, then of course you can do a churn rate of, let's say, 50%. So on average, they buy twice before they stop paying you. Or, good churn rates under like 5%. So your lifetime value of your customer becomes massive. And the reason why we want to have a look at lifetime value is because this is really projecting into the future of the decisions we make today and the sales we get today. How does that look in the future? So if we have an average churn rate of 5%, you can really see like what that does to your lifetime value, even though in this example, you're selling something for $100. If this is a $100 subscription, and on average, they stay for, let's say, 20 months, then of course, the lifetime value becomes $1,500, and we get a massive amount of revenue and a massive amount of profit. So this is where we really, of course, why we recommend having a subscription and having something where people can come back and pay you again and again. And when you engineer your business model to have a subscription, you can see how it massively impacts your business by just getting people to do business with you on an ongoing basis. So how I would also use this calculator in practice is I would probably split the different offers. So I would like have a certain funnel and a certain version of this calculator just looking at your subscription product, a certain calculator just looking at your core product, and then of course your upsell. And then you can have a combined calculator that just looks at all of the data of your business, so you can get a estimate of like real lifetime value, and of course average average cash collected upfront as well. So I really hope this calculator is super helpful for everybody. I think really understanding these benchmarks and metrics, a lot of clients we even work with doing high 6 figures or even starting on the 7-figure level a year, they don't even know all of these metrics. So this is something that we try and really ascertain when we start off with clients working with them, because just knowing these values and just filling in this sheet, you're going to instantly get a lot more clarity in your business and what action steps to take next to actually drive the core growth in your business. And this is also just working off pure numbers. So there's no emotions. There's no, doubt in terms of like how to really change and scale your business. This calculator is just purely based on numbers, and taking that step of knowing all of your numbers in your business, especially numbers like your cash flow and profit. This is where we can make some really good decisions, and then of course work on the core areas to drive that growth in your business. So I hope this calculator is very helpful. I think every person I've ever sent this calculator to really loved it. And yeah, hope you guys really deploy this in your business. And one quick tip, again, I'm touching again on AI, but we've got Gemini now built into actual Google Sheets. So what you can also do is you can describe what this calculator is about to Gemini, and then you can get specific metrics and benchmarks for your specific niche in coaching, and more so also get Gemini to give you some insights of how to actually fix your business based on these metrics, because this is the most core metrics for any business around paid ads for lead generation to then of course closing an offer. So this is really powerful to combine this with AI, and now Gemini has full insight into your business. And of course, you can leverage that to generate you some really, really good insights as well. So hope this is really helpful. Again, spreadsheets are our friend, and knowing a lot more insights about your business and becoming really creative and really competent around generating good business intelligence of your business is solving 50% of the problem of what step to take next. So I hope this is really helpful to everybody, and on to the next section. So now at the final stage, which is what action steps to take based on where you are in your business right now. Action steps to get started. I think a lot of the people who's going to watch this video is not going to be at the stage, but that is working on your offer, building a compelling offer, starting off with a free offer, which is like a lead gen magnet as well as a core offer, refining and setting up your social media accounts and shooting your ads. Start with the most basic campaigns, as I mentioned before, then refine and iterate those campaigns and the data once you spend a bit of money. And of course, refine your sales and closing process. So one of the things a lot of clients, even when they're at 7-8 figures, still have issues with is they need to have an amazing sales team, an amazing closing strategy, amazing closing script. You need to have a very good back-end sales team to actually take these leads and convert them into money. If you don't solve this problem, none of the things we're going to teach you is going to work. So really invest the time and effort into creating an amazing sales system, an amazing sales team, and making sure you have a very good close rate on these calls. So now, if you're at 6 to 7 figures a year already, what is the next steps and how do you really scale and build a much bigger business, a much more profitable business? Well, firstly, you're going to map out your entire funnel. As I mentioned, you're going to go through all of the data of your funnel. So many clients we speak to, we ask them give us a broad data, give us a broad overview of what's going on in your business. And they don't even know that. So how can you make a good decision if you don't even know what the information is to make decisions? So how can you even make a good decision if you don't even have the information to make those decisions? So map everything out from how much you're spending on ads, how many leads you're getting from that, your CPMs, cost per clicks, everything on the ad level, how's that converting into leads, what percentage of that leads is taking an action, and then of course, what percentage of those leads close. So once you have the data, the next step, of course, is we're going to optimize that whole funnel and see wherever there's a massive leakage and just fix that first. So that's where you're going to get really quick gains in your business. It's also going to give you the insight of like where the most of your money is coming from in terms of like a return on time and capital. So there might be something you're doing, like, for example, you reached out to 10 people that refers you business once a month, and that could actually be the highest leverage thing to pursue because it just took you 30 to 50 emails to reach out to 10 good referral partners. So once you really map out your funnel, all of your traffic sources, time it takes, effort it takes, money it takes to get leads in from there and how they close, and really understanding your entire business, take the necessary action steps to double down on what's working and fix what isn't working. And then we move on to the next step, which is what you're going to do is you're going to deploy and test some of these structures and offer some of these structures and backend systems that we've already discussed. Once you have that all in place, the next step is building out the rest of the offers and components we talked about. So building out your subscription, figuring out what is a good upsell or downsell in your business, and how you can actually increase the lifetime value of your customers and sell them different things. Because maybe right now what you're selling, only a certain percentage of your potential leads is wanting to buy that thing. And just by selling something else, you might solve another problem and therefore even double your business. So if we're really figuring out how you can increase and really refine your offer with multiple components of what you want to sell, or improve the current offer with some of the other components we already mentioned. So once you have some clarity around everything and you've improved your offer and you've built up even horizontals or verticals in your business, you should get to the 8-figure mark. Now, again, to reiterate the three biggest constraints you will have to scale, one will be an amazing offer and refining a very good offer. 2 is going to be your creative testing and output of creatives, as this is a common problem we always see with a lot of clients. And 3, being actually great at sales and closing. So once you fix those 3 things and you have a lot of leads coming in, you should be able to scale to 8 figures. And this is where all of the fun things happen, where you start doing some AI things and some things in the back end. So what to do with scaling to 8 figures? So you want to have a perfectly optimized offer. You want to have multiple free offers, a very optimized and split-tested core offer, the subscription, an upsell, and a downsell. Now, another thing to really focus on is you want to collect a lot of cash up front. So even figuring out how to do pricing and stuff where you can collect way more money up front. And then, of course, on the back end of that, increase your lifetime value of these customers. So get them to spend money with you again, get them to spend more money more frequently as well. And you're going to have to do ongoing testing and optimizations with your backend. Everything from your emails, your SMSs, how are you calling these people up, what you're exactly saying on these calls, recording the calls and actually getting data on the calls and the sales side as well to really optimize your whole system. A little bit of a benchmark in terms of creative output per creative, or we recommend at least 1 creative per $10,000 in revenue a month. So if you have a goal of getting to 100K a month, you should have 10 creatives that's winning a month. So I'd even test to get 10 winning creatives, around 20 to 30 creatives. But this is a massive bottleneck and constraint for people. So even brands that's really succeeding now doing $1 million to $2 million a month is probably testing around 1,000 creatives a month. So a lot of times we just keep seeing massive a lot of these ad accounts with just not enough creative performance. A lot of these creators are dying out and they're just not performing. If you have an average click-through rate of under like 1%, your ad account is looking really bad and you need to double down on making a lot of creatives to get your ad account in a good state. So this is the exact reason why high-end coaches are investing thousands of dollars a month on content and always shooting content, where the low-end coaches are literally not doing that. And to even double down on this, same with offer testing. speaking to someone doing over $1 billion a year in the online space, they're testing 3 to 5 offers a day. So like 25 plus offers a week of just new offers they're testing. So that gives you a sense of like scale of just doing more reps is going to get you the result. A lot of times people should 10x the output of either their creatives or their testing or their optimization to really get that exponential growth in their business. Now, another thing, of course, you're going to have multiple channels and you're going to build out multiple channels in your business to get to that 8-figure a year mark. So you're going to have, let's say, paid channels and some organic channels. And this is where you start investing more and more into organic, where organic can take you to that next level because you have a lot of profit right now. You can reinvest 50 grand a month into content, and then suddenly that becomes an exponential curve where you can really outscale your ad spend in terms of just investing that time into making a lot of organic content. So this is a point where it's almost an inflection point where you start building your organic as the long form channel, where it's going to get you the exponential results 3 to 5 years down the line, where you have a YouTube channel with 1 million plus followers and there's X amount of business coming from that every month. Another step on the 8-figure side is also, as I mentioned before, treat affiliates as a channel. A lot of people are leaving a lot of money on the table because they're not getting enough referral/affiliate business. So referrals meaning other businesses like accountants referring your business, and affiliates meaning people selling your product or service online or in person with a commission on the back of that. So there's an incredible amount of power with affiliates. There's been people who've built billion-dollar companies just scaling affiliates and hiring affiliates to do all of the work. So really think about how you can scale affiliates as a funnel. And we've done this for a client with massive success, over 1 billion views organically in over a year. So there's a lot of opportunity in the affiliate space as well.
So now into case studies. This is Sasha. For over like 5 years now, we've been doing all of his social content, event content, ad content, VSL content. We do a lot of his podcast events, everything. We actually do a lot of his Google ads for his brands and do some consulting in his consulting container for some of his clients. This is Ryan. Ryan's probably the biggest sales coach in Australia. Been working with Ryan for probably 3 to 4 years now, doing all of his events, working alongside David Goggins, Jeremy Miner, Daniel G, and some of the biggest coaches in the industry. Now, this is Eric. Eric owns 8, 7 to 9 figure businesses down here in Gold Coast, Australia. We've been working with Eric for probably around 4 to 5 years now, doing all of his event shoots, podcast shoots, and basically everything in regards to content creation. This is Morgan. We've been working with Morgan for 5 to 6 years now. Morgan working alongside with Ty Lopez and some of the biggest coaches like in the world at the moment. This is Ali. Ali runs an e-commerce program as well. We've completely transformed his business from 30K months to 250K months consistently for all of his funnels and consulting programs. As you can see in front of us here with a bunch of different screenshots, here are a bunch of different results from a bunch of different types of clients that we've worked with over the past 8 years.
I'll do another one. So if you need any help implementing any of these things we just showed you above, or you just want some consulting to get a general direction of where to go and what to do next, 2025 is the year for you to scale. So booking a call, we'll help you out and we'll show you how to scale and how to reach the next level in your business.